first of all, he says, no matter who you are or what you do, right now you should be focused on your health and not about whether you lose your job or run out of money for things like groceries or medicine. Today, we, the government of Canada, are announcing our plan that will help you and your family. Number one, if you do not qualify for employment insurance and you do not have access to paid sick leave but have to self-isolate or quarantine, or if you need to take care of a family member who has COVID-19, you can receive an emergency care benefit every 2 weeks for 14 weeks. If you have children, we'll boost your Canada Child Benefit to help with the increase in childcare costs as schools remain closed. And in the coming months, we'll add more to your GST, that's the benefit cost credit. Every adult who qualifies will get up to 300 Canadian dollars. Every child up to $150. You're a student, we're pausing your loan repayment for 6 months, interest-free. Those experiencing homelessness, boosting funding to address your needs. Those who do not feel safe, self-isolating at home, we're increasing funding for shelters. Measures being taken by other governments, looking at how to help the Mwananchi, the taxpayer.
Meaning they are not engaging their citizenry in discussions about discussions.
No. They're not saying we'll get back to you.
We are still discussing.
Discussing.
It's not. We'll come back to you and tell you about this. And it's interesting because at the end of the day, what
I'm
you
saying
want the citizen.
It's impossible to. I mean,
no. What they want the citizen to do, forget about your job because that's where we are now. Forget about your job. Forget about will I have enough money. Let us handle that. You. Take care of your health. Make sure that you've isolated. Make sure that you're doing the things that we've asked you to do. Keep yourself
and
clean.
Essentially the others leave
we'll
to
take
us.
care of the rest.
Yes.
That's what they're saying.
Us, the governor of the central bank tells you, if you feel that perhaps you are a bit encumbered with your personal loan, which personal loans in Kenya comprise 28% of the loans, you may go to your bank.
If that loan was active from March 3rd.
You may go to your bank and you may also discuss with them.
Yes.
This is personal.
What
loans.
on earth is that?
We have created a conducive environment in which you can have this conversation.
What on earth is that? What exactly is he saying? How is that useful? That you can do now. That you could do last week.
You could
that
have done it without COVID-19.
That you could have done the year before.
Yeah.
It's nothing new.
Nothing new.
In
Nothing
short,
salvation-wise.
There is nothing that has been done.
Yet.
This one, if that is supposed, the headline is bank promise to ease loan, but lie.
Right.
That's not a promise.
We will discuss banks in detail, and especially these measures that the banks are taking. We'll discuss them in detail on this show today. But let's take a look at other headlines. 3 more test positive, a rise in suspected cases. There's a hotline number that has been given. It's important that you know the exact steps to take when you suspect that you or your family member has the virus. The most common symptoms of the virus, of course, let's repeat them. Fever, a dry cough, tiredness or exhaustion, headache and shortness of breath. If you have the above symptoms, you can call the COVID-19 hotline number that has been provided, 0729 471 414. That's 0729 471 414. When you call these numbers while I'm speaking to the doctor, you'll need to explain your symptoms, your travel history, the persons you've been in close contact with. It's very important to be honest so as to help you get better, as well as monitor other loved ones or people you might have come into contact with. To self-quarantine, here's what you need to do. Stay at home. If you have mild symptoms of the virus, stay where you are. Stay away from other people, not only in public places, but also at your home. Number 3, avoid sharing personal household items such as dishes, drinking glasses or cups, towels or beddings with others. I hadn't thought of that.
You hadn't done. This is the thing a lot of people are doing now. I mean, just as an example, you have kids in the house and you have cups. So with everybody has their cup. With a round, you want to wash it and put out new cups. So, I mean, something as simple as that, something as basic as that is actually what you want to practice. So things that you would normally take for granted, this is the thing. Things you would normally take for granted need to come into play here.
So the 3 of us, you are not supposed to share beddings with others.
In other words,
Kila mtu awe na blanket yake.
Kila mtu kwa kitanda yake.
Kila mtu kwa shiti yake. Kama kitanda haitoshi, lala kwa sakafu.
You're going to split this thing.
That's the implication. But
yes.
Or wanda lala kwa sofa kwa kiti in the sitting room.
You there today, the other one there tomorrow.
Everybody sleeps
Separate.
Separate.
That's what you're saying.
Getting tested. Depending on your symptoms, your doctor or the healthcare provider will tell you if you should be tested or not. They will arrange the test for you in collaboration with the Ministry of Health officials. After the test, it might take a few days or hours before you get your results. Depending on the severity of your symptoms, you may be kept in an isolation ward at the hospitals. If the doctor allows you to go home, you should self-quarantine. Treatment. There's no treatment or vaccine. Prevention. Good hygiene, social distancing is the best way to prevent the virus from spreading. Now, we'll be joined by Dr. Mercy Korir, KTN's medical journalist. She's our guest host this morning, where we are saying you can ask Dr. Mercy any of the questions that you may have regarding coronavirus, the spread, the measures that you need to take, what you need to do when you have this. She'll be here with us from shortly, a few minutes from now, up to 10 a.m.
Well, busting the myths is something that still needs to continue to happen. We have that as one of the headlines this morning. Just go through them quickly and we can look at them in more detail later. But high temperatures prevent infection? No, they don't. Whether you live in the tropics or not, we had Dr. Masika in the studio yesterday who was very clear about this, that it is not the issue. COVID only affects old people. This is not true either. It can affect anyone across board. Mosquitoes do not cause COVID 19 infections. COVID is a respiratory disease. There's also the myth that you cannot catch the virus while wearing a face mask. So that is a myth as well. Goods shipped from China can infect you. That is also a myth. Virus was deliberately created and released by humans. That's a myth. A vaccine against the virus exists. That's a myth as well. It's also a myth that antibiotics can treat COVID-19. One of the myths that a lot of people seem to be drowning in now is that alcohol, the kind that you can ingest, will protect you or prevent the infection. This is a myth.
If you're using
sure it's a myth?
if you're using alcohol
Sorry, CT.
outside on the outside, why not just put it in?
Put it in. This
You're
is
sure it's not a myth?
Sorry, CT. It is actually a myth.
What it can do on the outside, it can't do on the inside.
Sorry. As you would normally say.
You walk around with
Sorry.
it.
Even the Kali variety of alcohol.
Pole sana.
Not good.
This is not a nice virus.
Okay, carry on.
The last one. COVID-19 is treatable. It is not treatable, cannot be cured. What can be done, and I think that's what we need to keep harping on, is that the symptoms can be treated. The headache, the fever, the cough, they can be treated to make you more, it can be managed to make you more comfortable. And I think we'll be going through a lot of those when we ask Dr. Mercy.
She's here. Dr. Mercy Korir, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning,
How
Dr.
are you?
Mercy.
Very well,
Fine,
thank
you.
How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Karibu sana.
Asante sana. I am surprised that there are many Kenyans on the road.
Yes.
I thought there was a stay home if you can, as much as you can. But it's business as usual.
Those are the ones who
not
can't
quite,
as much
not
as they
quite,
can.
not
It's
quite.
worrying.
There's actually no. There's a huge reduction on traffic numbers.
I would have
Significant
expected
reduction.
it's
More.
5 a.m. I would have expected the roads to be a little bit clearer than usual. So Kenyans are still around, which is a worrying thing.
To understand it, I was in the CBD yesterday at around 4. There were no jams. Meaning, Haile Selassie, Kenyatta Avenue, you could just drive. Small stoppage. So for me, it is significant because at 4 o'clock, you will not move.
Yeah.
True.
Literally,
There
not
is a
move.
significant reduction in the number of people who are out.
We're out.
But go to malls, go to supermarkets, go to nightclubs.
Even nightclubs.
Kwanzaa, those ones. You know, the other day we were talking about what was in the papers. The Mombasa governor, Ali Hassan Joho,
He closed nightclubs.
immediately declared closure of nightclubs and sent out officers to ensure that this is happening. Nairobi, or whoever has been running Nairobi before 3 p.m. yesterday,
Hasn't done anything.
they hadn't remembered this. I hope now this Major General can come and say, issue an order. Because I've seen pictures this morning of people who were in a nightclub last night. And you look at that footage and you're wondering. So
It worries you.
yes.
It's worrisome.
And these are not
The
people who are
number of
sitting
people.
10 meters apart from each other.
They are
overnight.
close to one
They're
another.
close to each other.
They're
Nightclub.
dancing
Uh-huh,
close to
no.
one another. There's absolutely no observation of social distancing.
Social distancing.
Or-
Is it that people are not taking this seriously, or what is
Yes.
it?
That is it.
That's
which,
exactly
which is
it.
a big problem.
It's a big
Actually,
problem.
that isn't the problem.
What is?
The problem is they don't take the government seriously.
So anything the government says,
If the government says this,
you heard that lady, kuna koloni.
Kuna No malaria.
Yeah.
No,
Yes.
but it's
You just want money.
but you know when things get thick, that's where the problem would start.
Yeah, and I think that's the kind of messaging that we're trying to put out here at this point, that we mustn't wait for things to get thick.
Yes.
It's at this time now where all of these measures must be put in place.
Actually, things got thick a long time ago.
People just need to realize this.
Yes.
We need to now tell the people, forget about the government. This is about you.
Yes.
It's about you.
This
Because
not-
people
yes.
assume,
No.
this is the government.
No.
I want to show that the government that I'm an independent person. I make my own decisions.
Not on
I
this
don't
one.
believe.
On this one, no.
On this one,
Because you will die independently, that's for sure. So you don't need to prove it.
my home manager
Yes.
said to me yesterday, "Oh, you know, there's a funeral, and somebody has died. We need to go over." I said, "Look,
Nataka
auntie,
kwenda.
look, where you're going in the first place, your governor has said if they die today, you bury
Bury them
today.
the next,
We're not
immediately
waiting
within
for so all of this thing
24
you're
hours.
talking about next weekend, next year, and see if you go, you're not coming back. So it's up
Decide.
to you.
Lockdown.
Decide, decide. So it's things like that we need to actually put people. But nitakimbia nirudi haraka.
No.
It's not about that.
You know the things
It's
you
not
need
about
to
that.
do to stay safe, you don't require the government to actually implement
No, no.
No.
It
them.
is
Don't
you.
at all. It's just you.
This is all about personal initiative.
And
Even
it-
when the government tells you to do something, when the government is urging you, yes, it's urging you, but it's supposed to be for you to take that seriously.
Maybe
When
the
people are not
government
doing
needs
that.
to be bolder than that. And you know,
I have been saying that from day one.
Maybe they
This
just
thing
need-
of
instead
having
of
a government
urging-
system that asks for your opinion doesn't work. It does not work. The government should tell you, and you should follow the order. It's 17 minutes after 6 o'clock. This is a situation. Kenya's biggest conversation. It's a coronavirus conversation throughout this week and throughout this period. We are joined this morning throughout the show by Dr. Mercy Korir, KTN's Standard Group's medical journalist. She's here to answer your questions. Ask Dr. Mercy, 0719 012 600. Let's take a look at the weather. Good morning.
Spice up your life.
Okay.
The
in
weather
Nairobi
with
today,
Spice
showers
FM.
throughout the city at 16 degrees. We're looking at a high of 25 and lows of 16. Taking a look then into Nyeri, partly cloudy conditions this morning at 16. Showers will come in later there as well, with highs of 24 and lows of 15. In Nakuru at 16 degrees, it's mostly cloudy. Rain showers expected later, with highs of 24 and lows of 14. It's 14 degrees in Eldoret and partly cloudy, opening up into an afternoon of rain with highs of 24. In Kisumu at 19 degrees, it's partly cloudy. Rain expected there at 28 degrees and lows of 19. In Mombasa, it's cloudy all through, and it's going to follow through with rain. Highs of 32 and lows of 26. At 27 degrees in Malindi, it's going to be a partly cloudy day throughout until evening. Highs of 32 and lows of 27. Taking a look into Kampala, where the showers are already coming down at 20 degrees. Thunderstorms expected later with highs of 24 and lows of 19. In Dar es Salaam, it's a thunderstormy morning at 25 degrees, highs of 32. Taking a look into Johannesburg at 12 degrees, it's clear skies all through with highs of 24. In Lagos at 28 degrees, it's partly cloudy all through, highs of 34 and lows of 26. In London at 8 degrees, it's cloudy morning and rain expected with highs of 9 and lows of 5. In Paris, it's clear skies at 10 degrees, highs of 20 today and lows of 9. Finally, in New York at 8 degrees, it's clear skies this morning, opening up into an afternoon of rain with highs of 11 and lows of 7.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise.
You're listening to Spice FM. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
The conversation, Kenya's biggest conversation, if you look at the headlines. Remember, if you don't have access to a newspaper because you're at home, you're not going out to the roads, you're not going out to the shops, you still can access the Standard newspaper. First of all, we've got two options. Option number one is online. The Standard has always been online, well, for a long time now has been online. Download Standard e-paper app on Google Play Store and Apple App Store. And for just one subscription fee, you can choose weekly, monthly, or annually. You get to access the Standard Group publications. That's the Standard newspaper. So you have access to the Standard newspaper every day. Don't worry. The other thing that we have done as the Standard Group is rolled out a way for which you can actually access the Standard being delivered to your doorstep wherever you are. And this is around the country from Nairobi and its environs to the other parts of the country, coast and the Nyanza and the Rift Valley region. So if you're in Nairobi metropolitan region. If you're in the Nairobi metropolitan region, where you can call this number, Anthony Mutunga, 0702-905-941. That's 0702-905-941. Delivery of the Standard newspaper to your doorstep. Just tell him wherever you are, where you want the newspaper to be dropped. That's Nairobi, Machakos, Kiambu, parts of Kajiado, the Nairobi metropolitan region. Benson Gitao is the man in charge of the Mount Kenya region and the coast. His number 0702-905-780. That's 0702-905-780. Mount Kenya region and the coast. The Standard newspaper can be delivered to your doorstep if you call Benson Gitao. And if you're in Rift Valley and Nyanza regions, call Mark Othiambo 0776-756-107. 0776-756-107.
Keep looking at what's going on. Chaotic and filthy city now in the hands of a soldier. A national government completes takeover of key Nairobi county functions, with President Kenyatta creating Office of the National Metropolitan Services, headed by Major General Mohammed Badi as Director General. Looking into the details of this particular story and asking ourselves what needs to happen for people to take things seriously, where we have the bars and everything happening in Nairobi at night in the times of COVID-19. Perhaps this is what is required at this point to whip people into shape. Uhuru put soldier in charge of the capital city. He's established the office of the Nairobi Metropolitan Service, completing the national government takeover of key functions from a rudderless county government. Major General Mohammed Abdallah Abadi was appointed Director General of the service, which will oversee the crucial works and planning dockets that Governor Mike Sonko ceded on the 25th of February. The transfer took effect yesterday when Sonko and Devolution Cabinet Secretary Eugene Wamalwa, at a ceremony witnessed by the President and Senate Speaker Ken Lusaka at State House, signed the final deed of transfer following public participation. Moving on swiftly. Major General Badi has been the senior directing staff air at the National Defence College. Prior to the posting in May last year, he had been the base commander at the Moy Air Base. Official says he is a helicopter pilot who has risen through the ranks. He'll be deputized by Enosh Onyango Momanyi. Other officers will also be seconded to the office, but from both the national and county governments. It's probably what Nairobi needs.
Also, the County Public Service Board has signed an agreement with the Public Service Commission. So basically, even the staff of Nairobi City County are now under the Public Service Commission. This Nairobi is gone. This Nairobi is gone.
Finish.
It's gone to the top.
Yep.
This is it. Nairobi Metropolitan Service is forget Nairobi County. So why are we still paying Sonko? Should
That's
we?
a good question.
Because he was elected. And that particular position has not been degazetted. The legal process, essentially, to remove Sonko, you need to remove the position of governor of Nairobi.
The kind of agreement they have come up with, see, they just agree, all right.
By law, you know.
By law, he has to
it's
say they're just
allowed.
going to leave him there. He's not going to cause any problems. He's not going to say
He's an
anything.
elected leader.
He's just going to kill
And
our
that
money.
position is constitutional. So you cannot actually, there's very little you can do unless you change the constitution specifically for the county of Nairobi.
So
how are you going to do
essentially,
that?
You're going to pay a puppet for a while and you're going to pay him for the next 2 years. After 2022, he'll be done.
And to ensure that we don't break any law,
As governor
we
of
must
Nairobi,
have
unless
a
he's voted back in.
number of CECs and chief officers, just to ensure that the county executive is county executive.
But what will they be doing, considering those four main functions are basically not there.
Everything else.
So what are they doing?
Someone like Charles Kerich will be in charge of what he gazetted the other day. Things like the new Nairobi railway city, such kind of things, land.
It's not that they don't have work to do. They do.
It's just that they have to report to
It's
Major
just,
General.
yeah, the reporting structure has changed.
Major General is the boss.
There will be
And
order
Mr.
in the
Momanyi
city.
is the deputy boss.
Remember, one of the things that has dogged the city for as long as one can remember are cartels.
Yes.
So the idea of a civilian being given that job, it's like simply recycling the
Bring
same thing.
one of
yes.
us back in.
But you bring in a soldier, the optics is that you're breathing fresh air, new life into
Order.
the entire.
Plus,
yes.
no
Discipline.
nonsense, order and discipline.
Yes,
Those
and,
things
and,
come.
and, and the thing that comes to my mind and gives me joy is there's a possibility you can get shot.
It's nice, no? And I wonder how soon
That
these
is
folks,
not. All the human rights activists will be on your neck. Everyone has a right.
when it
Of
comes
course.
to the thing,
To
of
be
course,
shot.
everybody
To
has
get shot.
No,
Yes.
no. Everyone has a
You
right.
commit a crime, you have a right to be jailed. And we're saying there are certain crimes that jailing isn't enough. When you steal, you've opened yourself to other rights. And I'm saying if we were a little more progressive, we would shoot certain people.
There's still societies where
What I like about what I see
Everyone has a right.
is the introduction of the National Youth Service. We've talked about
we
this.
talked
before.
about this, asking them.
It has arrived.
NYS should just do some of these.
Oh,
basic
but they've already
things.
said so.
Here we
Yes.
go.
For garbage collection.
The National Youth Service will reactivate county garbage collection vehicles, trucks, and other equipment that have been grounded. The new office will be required to identify and gazette solid waste disposal sites for use by both public and private collection service providers. For now, we'll have those public, private service garbage collection.
collectors.
But their days are numbers. Because one of the things is let's fight that cartel in garbage. Crack down on illegal dump sites and oversee enforcement on effluent discharge from industry and restaurants. Water sanitation, NMS will be tasked with registration and monitoring of vendors and Bowser operations.
Yep.
But my question has always been, why do we need Bowser and vendors? Why not have properly piped water? Because the Bowsers and the vendors, no one can verify or authenticate where they're getting
water
their water
sources.
from, their water sources from. So if we are streamlining, then let's streamline from the source and have everyone
Everybody
My,
getting
my,
access.
my, my
Water.
response to your question is one word: cartels.
So then it means we are still keeping the cartels. If we are considering the,
The
Bowsers
order
and the
should have
vendors.
been-
The order should have been.
Ensure the phasing out of water Bowsers
Exactly.
and proper reticulation of water to everybody.
I am certain that this will come about shortly, because the suffering of the citizenry of this wonderful metropolis is not unknown to the government. And the business that is the water service is also not unknown to the government. This is
And
something
those that have been benefiting from everything
Are
going
also
wrong
known.
are also known or part of,
Yes.
known to the government.
Yes.
Then what have we done then with all these changes?
Monkey, trees,
all we're saying,
choose.
the way I see it is,
What's different?
this is an opportunity where this gentleman who's been given this new job, time. Let's give him time.
Also, the person who's been made to deputize him is somebody who's coming from the public service, and there must be something about him that made the government
made him
decide.
choose him.
Yeah, I hope we are seeing another
let's-
Gakpo
let's give
in
them
the
time.
time of
Let's give it time.
Momanyi.
Let's give them time. Not too long, but let's give them time, because some of these things, changing some of these things, should actually not be difficult. Because as a country, we actually have enough water. It's not that we don't need to export some from the moon. We have enough. No, we do have enough.
And now
water.
with the completion of the Northern Collector Tunnel, Nairobi has access to more water.
We do. Then
So-
we'll probably that will if we sort out our water problems, it will translate to we've sorted out cholera, diarrheal diseases that are killing children all over this country.
There goes the doctor. Right?
But of course, I usually say for health is not hospital based. 50% of it is community.
Thank you.
And it starts with some of these things like water and sanitation.
Right.
That's where that is the biggest chunk of the problems that we see in the health facility. So you have to start sorting it out from the source. So not to wait until downstream where now you're trying to treat diarrheal diseases, children having dehydration.
When you could
and
have
whatnot.
prevented it.
When you could have prevented it. So if with these changes, we are still factoring in vendors and water bowsers, then for me, it's not an indication that
Of
we are actually
things to-
seeing things, or want to take things in the right direction, because they would have said phase them out and make sure that Nairobi Water Services, and by extension all the other water and sanitation services in
the metropolitan
region are sorted out, so that everyone has
Actually,
piped
now that
water
this thing is
is
called the
treated.
Nairobi Metropolitan Service, and it's going to work with the Namata, the one that's also looking at the the larger Nairobi metropolis. That means that Kiambu and Machakos and Kajiado have also been roped in
Yeah.
Yeah.
into
Yes.
this.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mutua, Nyoro, and
Olelenku.
report to the general.
This is true.
If you didn't get that,
We're
brief,
telling you this morning.
we're telling you.
Actually,
today,
we are fast tracking the memo.
the memo.
the
So when you
general
get it,
is the
it's going
man
to
in
be a
charge.
reminder of what we've told you.
It's 6:30. This is a situation room, Kenya's biggest conversation. The live streams are up. Spice FM KE on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, as well as www.spicefm.co.ke. We are taking a look at the newspapers this morning. In the room, we have CT Muga, Nduoko, Eric Latif, and our guest host this morning is Dr. Mercy Korir, Standard Group's medical journalist. Ask Dr. Mercy. That's what we'll be having in the next hour, 7 to 8. You have all the questions that you need to know about the coronavirus. Dr. Mercy Korir is here throughout the show, so you can call and ask 0719 012 600. Let's take a look at traffic, and the conversation continues.
Spice FM, Malindi. Classic soul,
All right,
R&B,
Mombasa Road clear all
smooth
the way
jazz.
from Cabanas to GM, all clear this morning, and then a super thicker, the thicker super highway is super clean this morning. Wow, I don't even know what to say. Things are happening in a way I don't
That's it.
understand. The showers came
Don't hold
down
back,
this
yes.
morning, so the Jogo Road heading to town is already a mess, and exact opposite of how it was yesterday. This is definitely because of the rain, and it's probably going to open up in a little bit. But everywhere you look, it's absolutely clear, even with the rains. Not much of a problem today. We'll see how it opens up later on. Getting into the CBD from Moy Avenue to Tomboy, River Road, everywhere, absolutely clean. Nothing really happening now. Even the matatus, well, because most of them are parked, nothing is going on. We'll let you know what it looks like shortly. If you see something, do let us know. Spice FM KE, or call us on 0719 012 600.
Spice and everything nice. Alright. Spice FM.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 90.
So we're back to looking at the headlines in the newspaper. Before we move on from this story of Nairobi and the new order in Nairobi, Major General comes in. Major General Mohammed Abdallah Badi comes in. This is the latest addition of military coming into running government.
So
We started in
the day.
Kibaki 1. Major General, well, he was that time, he was Brigadier Mohammed Hussein Ali, police commissioner. Then we have seen over time, how many people do we have now?
Government spokesman.
Government spokesman, military. General Kihalangwa, military. And
That's the immigration guy.
he was in immigration. He was moved.
He's not PS.
Yeah, he's still a PS.
Yes.
NIS, military. Then the intelligence services, DPP,
By the way, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission,
ESCC,
former military.
Former military.
major. Yes. Now we're having this one, Major General, military.
Is there something we are missing?
What is President
No.
Uhuru telling us?
I think it's quite clear. When you say it began in the Moi era, if you look at the
Kibaki.
time when General Kibaki, when Major General Ali was head of police, people who are many of the people who then headed units within the police came from GSU.
Yep.
He did a complete reshuffle.
Yep.
Now, GSU, as you very well know, were not regularly in contact with civilians. So this contamination that we
And
speak
there's
of,
regimental order.
clear,
With the GSU.
clear. Then these ifs and buts don't exist.
I mean, look at the funeral of the late President Jalal Moy. There was no question in anybody's mind what was going on, just in the way in which they operate.
Yep.
This is what we have arranged. This is how it is going to be. There are no questions of shall we tweak? No. This is the way it is going to be, and we shall follow through. And it was.
And everything
Orderly,
was
clean,
perfect.
no question. Move, we finish, we wrap things up, we go. Where we saw any kind of hiccups is when somebody who was non-military was involved. So
Where
in
was
this
that?
case, if you would
Food
see that,
or-
No,
in fact,
actually, the non-military was prior, for instance, to the organizing of Nyeri Stadium before NYS came in. Yes, again, they were throwing words at the renovation of the stadium. Then NYS came in, they actually renovated the stadium within the shortest
In
time
record
possible.
time.
did you see how people lined up to view the body?
Wasn't it?
There was no-
People
yeah.
behaved
There was order.
themselves.
There was proper
Was
order
it not-
and there was no
was it-
delay.
Was it
There's
not
no
a
delay.
wonderful thing
It
to
was
see?
It was fantastic.
In and out.
In and out.
In and out.
In and out. Don't
No
stand
complaints,
by the side
oh,
asking,
tunasimamishwa
"Can I-"
pale.
No
No.
stampedes.
This security is
No
taking too long,
crowding.
frisking the checks. Move, you know where you're going. Out.
Remember, when-
Order.
if you know that you're running a country and the civilian leaders have proved beyond a shadow of doubt that they are incapable of any discipline, then you bring in people for whom discipline is
It's a way of
regularity.
life.
Yes.
Yes.
They don't need to practice it. It's what they do on a
It's in
daily
the DNA.
basis. Yes. It stands to reason. And by the way, it is simply movement within government. The military are part of the government.
Yep.
So essentially it's secondment. It is transfer of services, but you're still working for the government.
government.
It's just like you can be moved from this position and you can be made an ambassador. You are still working for the government. They've simply moved their services elsewhere.
Yep.
Elsewhere.
Yes.
Period.
There's a message that the president, those around him are sending. We realize that there's a lot of things that are not
And
working
this thing is not
in
going
our
to work, and
public
it's not going to
service.
change either.
And the way to do this is to instill order in there. Maybe we should just, well, okay.
You want to prescribe for this kind of thing across board? Go ahead.
Eric,
Let me say it for you.
Eric believes very sincerely that we should simply be a nation where people are given orders and they take orders instead of this huge debate
For
in
us to
society.
reinstill that order,
Start asking questions.
when Buhari took over the first time, what did he do? The first time in the 80s. Order. You're not at work at 8:30, don't come to
Military
work.
across board.
You're not at work at 8:30, don't come to work.
come to
You're
work.
supposed to go to lunch at 1.
You're supposed to be
12:59, you're
Supposed
fired.
to be back at
But
1:50,
is that
1:59, 2
sustainable?
o'clock.
Yes, it is.
It's sustainable.
Really?
though.
It is.
Because for me,
We need to reculture ourselves.
yeah, and that starts probably our generations. They're long gone. But if we start from early on, where people are responsible and accountable,
Yeah.
then maybe we'll teach
Actually,
the younger
Our
generation
guys need to
something.
be panel
Actually,
beaten.
Because
your perspective, Daktari, is a kind one. It's a considerate one. And, but that's precisely what's not needed.
A kind, considerate perspective.
No.
Because all the pampering and please, I beg, has been happening for too long.
Yes.
And that's why we got into the place where we are.
Where we are at now, what Eric has been suggesting works. Look at China. Communist, no apologies about it. But they're fairly open and liberal with their communism.
You have a lot of freedoms in China. by the way.
Within that same. But
within-
because they know that there's this communist party that looks after the interests, when they give you instructions, they're not asking for your opinion.
you just do.
What they expect you is to comply.
Comply.
Yeah.
Now, because of that, think of a situation where the coronavirus had actually hit the epicenter was, say, Milan and not Wuhan. If it was London and not Wuhan. And the debating society was enacted. And people are still talking about it. What do you think would have happened to the world?
The number of cases
Would be worse than
in
where we
China
are. Maybe.
between December and March is less than half the number of cases in the rest of the world.
Yes.
Between January, mid-January, and March.
And look at the liberties
tells
that they
you.
look at the liberties that they still enjoy. One of the only countries in the world that doesn't have the big Google as we know it is China. They said, 1, we don't want. 2, what we're going to do will create one so strong that it became Google's only rival in the world. And they said, we will control the kind of information that is shared. But there's nothing that you will look for that you will not find. There's no kind of information that you will seek that will not be available to you. But in terms of controlling the information, it shall be us who will
All
control
governments
this information.
control information.
And those
Don't be
platforms work
fooled.
so well.
All.
China,
But in this case, Google that controls the rest of the world, China, the only country to be able to say, actually, thank you, but we don't want.
But they
we
could
have
do that
our
because
own.
they have the numbers. A
Yes.
population of 1B, you can do anything that
and,
you want.
make it work.
And
But
make it work. You
but-
cannot try such a thing in a Kenyan population of 47.5 million, for example, because where will you get the critical mass to
Safaricom
subscribe?
has a critical mass. It's the biggest company in East Africa, operating just using the Kenyan numbers. No, it doesn't have Uganda. It doesn't have Tanzania. It's the biggest company in East Africa.
But we are looking at it from not just
Now
East
imagine
Africa
if
or Kenya. We are looking at it globally.
Yeah.
If you're looking at somebody that can control the global and have global conversation, we cannot.
You know,
Operate
you're
there.
actually right, but consider, talking of numbers, what the example Eric is giving is one that should make us pause and think. Remember, it's a telecom company, but it's now a fintech
It's a
company.
lifestyle company.
It's an
everything.
everything company, all right? Now, it's innovated things that the rest of the world doesn't even have. It's not only working, it's making money, and people are emulating it. So even with Google, Kenya can begin Google for all we know.
Yeah.
Yes. All we're saying is that if it can be done, it means we can also do it. That's, in my opinion, that's what it means.
Yes.
We may take a bit of time. China figured this out.
They have Gigi.
They figured, then they realized, we do
they know
not
what they're doing.
need
We
this.
don't need it. We can
have
do it
to.
for ourselves.
Right now, do you know what they're doing with vehicles? Yes, they import many vehicles. Many vehicles are manufactured with it or assembled within China. They are creating their own, which actually rival those top-notch vehicles that you see in the world. And they're calling it by their own names. Other consumer products, they're doing the same thing. Why? They've realized you don't really need to be that brand. You simply need to have a quality, and people acknowledge this quality, and you can begin your own brand.
Yep.
That really is the message.
And you can be self-sustainable.
Yes, just like we branded middle distance running. Middle distance running and Kenya are synonymous. In fact, the only challenge are the Ethiopians. But everyone knows.
Kenyans.
Yes, if you're talking
So they're talking
steeplechase,
about the East
yeah,
Africans.
you more or less want to just read something because you have an idea who's going to win.
Okay.
But yes, but it's not that other countries don't have runners. They do. It's not that they cannot do what we do. They can.
They can.
But if you only need to watch how these athletes train to understand that it doesn't come by magic.
No.
And most of the people who want to compete with them do not train half as much as they do. So they will actually never beat these people. No, it doesn't matter what they do.
Okay,
Take
looking
a look at
now,
other headlines.
Yeah, the religious sectors now. A number of churches have scaled down operations because of COVID-19. This is likely to happen. We saw that it happened in different countries. This comes as the National Council of Churches of Kenya called for suspension of services. Services, in this case, services, Sunday services.
Ibada ya Jumapili.
Yes. It's,
Okay.
Fursa. By yesterday, 7 cases of the virus, which had claimed at least 7,529 lives, had been reported. This is what prompted the council to seek churches to cancel services for 2 weeks. It told churches to keep their houses of worship open for individual prayers, but to suspend gatherings that would make it easy for the virus to spread. NCCK General Secretary Chris Kinyanjui called on their members to use technology such as radio and TV programs, phone calls, text messages, and YouTube to access religious programs. In furtherance of our duty of care for our members, we recommend that you consider mobilizing your congregations to protect themselves by cancelling worship services on March 22nd and 29th, or at least making it optional for congregants to attend. This is according to Canon Kinyanjui. On Tuesday, the All Saints Cathedral in Nairobi and the Presbyterian Churches of East Africa suspended Sunday services until further notice. They were followed yesterday by the Sitam Churches. Crisis Answer Ministry David Oginde talked about the suspension of services and activities for the next 3 weeks after 3 more coronavirus cases were confirmed.
This is a good thing.
4
This is
more.
a good
Yeah.
thing when you see it's not about the government telling them. It's the
Yeah.
church leadership sitting and saying, well, we
need to
need
do
to
something
take
about
action.
this.
Now, it's 4 for the church congregants to follow these actions and their advice.
According to them,
If you've been told don't go to church, why would you
carry
be
yourself
going
and
to
go to
another
church.
place? No. Even go to another place. So we have a wedding, we have a pre-wedding, we have a
have a
goat
funeral.
eating party.
For me,
Avoid
I
them.
would have wanted it to be a bit bolder. Like they're giving options of you can go for your own private prayers and whatnot. What if 50 of us go for the private prayers at the
prayers.
same time? I would rather
Shut
they
it
have
down.
shut down.
private prayers at the same church.
you know, if individuals want to come for
individuals,
private prayers, you
they
can
say they're
come.
still open for individuals. So
Oh no!
if
And
50
then you
of
go and
us
touch
in-
the surface and leave, and
Yeah,
somebody
yeah.
else comes and
Yes.
touches the same surface.
yes.
Yeah,
Shut it down.
I
For
agree
me,
with you,
that would have
Gary.
been a problem. So
Yeah.
I would rather they would have been cancelled in totality, close all the church and the mosque doors, all places of worship, close them.
Yep.
Whoever it is
For those 3 weeks.
can talk to us on camera.
Okay, yep.
It can be streamed. We can listen. We can do that in our own homes.
If you
ACK,
need pastoral care, we can do it
Yeah.
on the phone.
I think it needs to be clear from everybody.
it is to be.
ACK says that all Sunday services and cancelled meetings, this included the midweek group fellowships, as well as choir practices and such, are cancelled forthwith. But still, the main sanctuary remains open for individual prayers.
So
This is
that's
the
Yeah.
for me, that's a problem.
It
That's
is
a problem.
It's not a problem. It's a big problem.
It is.
Yeah.
You see, the one of the things that perhaps our people don't seem to understand is the severity of what we're dealing with. You can't pussyfoot with this.
No.
And this is where the Episcopalian Conference or NCCK should have actually come together with one voice and said,
This is it.
yes,
This
we
is
have
it.
all those wonderful bishops in their purple regalia. They look really nice.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nice long dresses. They look really nice. And just come out and issue edicts and said,
And say,
shut
Wapendwa,
down,
doors are closed.
close.
Exactly.
And said it gives us an opportunity to actually test how this new age communication actually works.
Yes, I mean,
So,
we have sit-time saying that
These
virtual
are lines
services-
which are going to be whatever.
Yeah.
If
Stream the church
exactly,
service.
you can do this. Options exist.
Yeah.
You see, lessons learned. If you look at the Asian tigers, the coronavirus isn't really hitting them hard. Not really. One of the things that they learned from SARS is to propagate e-commerce. So by the time COVID was coming around, their e-commerce industry was already
sorted.
sufficiently strengthened.
Yeah.
So it was
You
just a
can
question.
trade from wherever you are without
Exactly.
Without moving,
They
yeah.
already had it. So now it's just a question of saying, oh, so we are back there again. Are we okay?
We continue.
So for them,
as if nothing
business
happened.
hasn't really been that affected. Not really. Because they were prepared. Now, we are not taking advantage of lessons that other people have learned and putting them into practice. We are still trying to mesh and merge our old bad practices with, that's what it is.
With what is needed
With
now.
what is needed and a new situation where we actually need an entirely new approach.
One of the approaches we have is you can access the Standard newspaper online. Download the Standard e-paper app on Google Play Store and Apple App Store. Just one subscription fee, weekly, monthly, or annually, you get to access the Standard Group publications. This include the Standard newspaper, the bold paper, bold and factual news. Also, you can get this delivered to your doorstep. If you want the physical hard copy of the Standard, you can get it delivered to your doorstep. If you're in Nairobi metropolitan region, that's Nairobi, Kiambu, Machakos, Kajiado, you can call Anthony Mutunga 0702 905 941. That's 0702 905 941. Mount Kenya and the coast, Benson Getao is the number to call, 0702 905 780. That's 0702 905 780. For Rift Valley and the Nyanza region, Mark Odhiambo 0776 756 107. It's the Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation at 11 minutes to 7 o'clock.
Online, mobile, and on radio. www.spiceradio.co.ke. Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise.
You're listening to Spice FM. Spice up your life.
9
Mature.
to 7, good morning and how are you doing? Thank you very much for tuning in to the Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. In the room, we have Nduoko, C.T. Muga, Eric Latif, and Dr. Mercy Karir, Standard Group's medical journalist. Ask Dr. Mercy, 0719-012-600 is the number to call between 7 a.m. and 10 a.m. We are now taking a look at the newspaper headlines. Fed up with your spouse? Just walk away. There's no need to file for divorce. This is not an opinion. It's a ruling that's given by Justice Ruben Nyakundi at a Mombasa court. Says walking away from a marriage, never to return, maybe even remarrying, is sufficient grounds for one to be presumed to have divorced. Court rules that once one tells a partner that they no longer love them and they turn to a new lover, that cannot be said to be adultery.
Okay.
Interesting.
Nice. All right.
Okay.
This whole long story of file for
File
divorce.
papers,
I don't
1
know,
year
you
later.
need to wait for, 3 months after you've done what?
I think they usually
Wait for 3 years before newlyweds.
3 years.
It's very difficult to get a divorce in Kenya. And for me, if it's easy to get married, it should be
Should be as
equally
easy.
easy
To get out of it.
To get out of it.
Yeah.
But in Kenya, it's a long
Is it
process.
easy to get married in Kenya?
Yes.
You could, if you decide,
you have
look, we're together,
witnesses-
go AG,
Just
register
get,
there.
And
just
two-
get confused.
As long as you have two witnesses.
Register.
Fall in love.
By this
Some-
time tomorrow,
a
by
few
9 o'clock
thousand
tomorrow
shillings,
morning, you can
and
be
you go to
standing
the
in front of the
AG.
AG. Have lunch in the afternoon. By tomorrow night, you can be in Mombasa on your honeymoon.
Yeah.
Very easy, my dear.
Mm.
Eh,
It's like that.
I'm
They
telling
just put
you.
a
And then
notice.
wait for 3 years.
And then wait for
spoil
3
it
years.
now. You wait for 3 years.
Yeah, okay.
Now the judge is saying, go to Mombasa, find somebody new, look at them, like them,
Don't
Turn-
go.
And
Don't
tell
go
the
back
other-
home.
turn
Tell
to
the
your
other
new
one-
wife. I don't love you anymore.
And that's it.
You are
Check
the
this
one I
new
want.
girl. And
But
divorce
this-
is in
Oh,
effect.
this ruling is going to be challenged.
Of course.
Divorce is in effect.
This ruling
But
will
why?
be challenged.
Why?
But we have, is it Sharia, the Muslims? You can just tell somebody
Talaka.
I'm bringing
talaka
another
3
one.
times and that's it. Or
Actually,
you
I
add-
wish it were that simple. That's a summary of it. But you really have to give reason. It's not as though you just utter something and suddenly you're divorced. No. The case has to be heard. And yes, and those pronouncements also have to be explained. It's not your uttering them doesn't give you easy
just telling
access.
someone, talaka.
Out. No.
out you go.
No, it doesn't work like that. The same with people say that in Islam you're allowed to marry 4 wives. It's not as though you wake up in the morning and just say, okay,
Bring.
wife 1 today, tomorrow. No, it doesn't quite work like that. There are processes and procedures.
It's interesting because, very good friends of mine who are Muslims, and they say to me, the thing, the gentlemen say, it's not a matter of just taking a wife.
No.
It's not just a religion, it's a culture. And you have to have proven that you are able to take care of her, because that's what they actually take it very seriously. You should take care of her and everything of her being. So by the time you're taking number 2 or 3 or 4, you have proven that you're able to take care in totality of number 1. So, you're right. It's not just the sayings that come with it, but it's an entire way of life.
It's the same thing with marriage. The reason why the process of dissolving that union becomes difficult is for the simple reason that in our setting, that union is not just between the two of you. And
Families come together,
and
communities come
There's
together.
extension.
It's extension, and over time, the extensions are not just small. The labyrinth becomes even tighter.
When the kids come in.
But I've seen
Oh, now that one is really tight.
But I've seen situations where it is more toxic when you try and make that union remain, as opposed to when the union is split.
You are
Yep,
absolutely right.
So
You're absolutely
sometimes
right.
stretching that 3 years, and especially where they're children, they are traumatized. That trauma is for life.
It's true.
So sometimes, for me, it's
Make it as
if
easy
it's-
to. If there are grounds, people
if there
will
are
go
grounds,
there.
There
and
are
look.
if things
grounds.
are
Make it easy for
bad,
them to leave.
It's better, and especially for the children.
You know,
that are
like
involved.
most discussions, there are always arguments on both sides of the pendulum. In societies where divorce is made easy, one could argue that the trauma is equally great for the children. Remember, as children, they will see things in one light. As they grow older and they also get into relationships,
Yep.
they will perhaps understand the circumstances the parents were in better. Now, the ease with which unions are dissolved also has dire consequences, because you then have a situation of what you call serial monogamy. Now, that itself also has issues, and it brings about even more confusion to children. So, It's really a question of what it is that would work.
And put it into cultural context.
Yes, exactly. But if something
You
isn't
must.
working, surely, and it is clear that the two of you, and not just not working, sometimes the two of you get along very well. What's
you can be fantastic
what's
friends.
getting in the way is the marriage.
You can be great friends. And if you want to do an audit of it, you're probably better off as friends, you know? What's getting in the way is the marriage.
Let's take a look at international headlines. Washington Post, live updates. China reports 0 new local coronavirus infections. 0. Trump signs bill to ensure paid leave and other financial benefits. 0 new corona infections in China. Would you call that a good thing? Now, The Guardian, now it's the schools. The Prime Minister scraps exams and shuts down classes. Now, this is likely to have, of course, an impact on Kenya as well. So schools in the UK shut down, GCSE cancelled. What does that mean for IGCSE and those that are taking IGCSE in the country?
Yeah, well, they
Preparing
go with
for
the same
exams in
schedule.
in
Yeah,
May?
they go with the same schedule, so they will be postponed.
As
Yeah.
somebody was saying, we are entering a new world order.
We actually have
We-
entered it.
Yeah, we have to reorganize a lot of things. We
Rethink,
may even
reshape.
reorganize schedules,
Yep.
timetables,
Yep.
everything.
Things that, what we do.
Because it's a global problem.
Even
not
these working
localized.
hours that we're talking about, you may actually have to devise a system where the people work at night, as you call it, the people work in the daytime,
Yeah.
throughout.
Yeah.
Yes.
Same newspaper says the sterling sinks to 35-year low against the dollar. Again, new world order. Trump is saying, we're going big on USA Today. With the signing of that new law, rescue package could exceed $1 trillion. White House considers direct cash payments. Millions more Americans told to shelter in a place. C.T. Muga, as we come into the top of the hour, remind us. Today's proverb.
You do not climb a pepper tree, but rather you go around it.
A what?
Pepper. Pili pili.
Pepe.
Pepper.
Pilipili manga ama pilipili.
Actually,
But is it a tree
yes.
or a shrub?
Bush, tree, shrub,
All na pepe.
pepper.
Pepe.
Yes. You don't climb it.
You go round it.
Rather, you go around it.
Why?
Well, the nature of pilipili, itakuasha.
So don't expose yourself.
And where is that from, CT?
This one actually comes from your neck.
Must
of
be
the-
pepper.
It comes from your neck of the wood.
Pepper in
Has to be.
Africa.
The southern part of your neck
So
of the
tell us, what trees are these that are...
Yes.
It's a bush. It's actually
It's
a
a
pepper.
bush.
It's a
It's a
bush.
shrub.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's a pepper bush.
But in
But-
Nigeria, shrub, all of them are trees.
It's a tree.
Nimti.
Small
No.
tree, it's a tree. It's a tree.
Nimti.
Yes. But you see, essentially, if the idea is to do something useful, you don't have to follow just one path. That's what we're trying to tell you. There are many ways of going around it.
Of skinning a cat.
Yeah, Mzungu saying, as you put it correctly, there are many ways of skinning a cat. But I would add, you need to catch that cat first.
Yeah, yes. How many ways of catching the cat?
Yes, exactly. Before you can skin it.
Who will bell the cat? It's coming up to 7 o'clock. This is a Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation, broadcasting Nairobi, Mombasa, Kisumu, Nakuru, Eldoret, Nyeri, Malindi. Ask Dr. Mercy. We're going to open up the phone line so you can have a conversation with Dr. Mercy Career, Standard Group's medical journalist, on all issues regarding coronavirus. Good morning. It's 7 o'clock.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Spice it.
Spice up your life. Spice FM, Nakuru.
So it seems COVID-19 has
Traffic.
stopped reggae and Mombasa Road. It's fantastic. Utawala to Upper Hill in exactly 27 minutes. Much faster than ever recorded previously. Thika Road, zero traffic. People are asking, where are people? Well, everybody is staying home. And this has been very clear. Kiambu Road, open. Self-isolation and working from home is a thing now. Another traffic-free day around the city. It's raining hard on Thika Road and Roy Road. Nakuru. So this in that area. So a lot of people are off the roads, and if so, moving slowly. But there's not much traffic there anyway. Like we told you, the situation right around Jogo Road was quite heavy because of the rain, and that seems to have opened up just a little bit, because then you can get into the CBD much faster now. Industrial areas like Ghost Town, nobody is there, so there's not an issue there either. The eastern and southern bypass is absolutely clear. It's like taking a ride through the city as you would enjoy it. If something out of the ordinary happens, don't hesitate to let us know. Spice MKE on Twitter. Give us a call on 0719 012 600. We're moving anyway, so give us a story. Tell us what you see.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room.
A very good morning to you. Broadcasting from Nairobi, 94.4, Mombasa, 87.9, Kisumu, 102.5, Nakuru, 96.0, 96.7 in Eldoret, Nyeri, 90.9, Malindi, 97.7. The live streams are up, www.spicefm.co.ke, as well as our social media handles, SpiceFMKE on Facebook. We are live streaming on YouTube, SpiceFMKE. You can also watch our live stream on Twitter, @SpiceFMKE. Ask Dr. Mercy. Mercy, of course, now the issues, very many myths surrounding coronavirus. In your interactions with people and the public, what is it that has stood out really for you? Like you heard somebody and you asked yourself, you couldn't ask them because it would have been rude. You asked yourself, what's wrong with this one?
Okay, not really what's wrong with this one. I understand people have very many fears and concerns. And I think for me, the one that has been recurring is people asking if any relationships, sexual relationships, will transmit the virus. And people seem to be very concerned about it. And even in some WhatsApp groups, they're like, no, doctor, you have to answer this one.
It's actually important. Yes,
Even
answer
somebody
this
in
question.
this room is worried.
I can see that.
If you're not supposed to touch your own face,
So those are some, okay.
Just a sentence. Then.
Then what happens?
yeah.
So anyway, the virus is not sexually transmitted as you would something like HIV. It is not sexually transmitted, but it is transmitted from person to person.
Right.
Dr.
So
Mercy.
you have to weigh and make your own judgment and decision.
Dr.
On
Mercy,
how the person to person
in
is going to
all
happen.
the communication that WHO has made public to the public, they have talked about droplets,
Yes. Yes.
and even more droplets. There has been no mention whatsoever of sexual contact and what it can do.
And fluids.
No mention.
Not even sweat.
No mention. Whether it can or cannot, it hasn't been mentioned. So, because it hasn't been mentioned, can we therefore assume that what you're saying would be the sacrosanct position of this particular matter because it hasn't been stated? That is the reality. And it ought to be stated categorically because if I remember, you see, my peg is always HIV. For the longest time, it was mosquitoes can't pass it on. In fact, saliva can't pass it on. Then at some point, you said, halt, actually, you know something? Saliva might just be able to pass it on. So it just stopped being sexual contact. It was now saliva. Now, droplets that we are talking about that come from the mouth are saliva by nature.
Yep.
Now, if we extrapolate, you see where I'm going with this one?
I can see where you're going with that one.
Precisely.
They land on any surface.
On
Yes,
any surface.
exactly. So that is what I'm speaking of.
So we can categorically say COVID-19, or rather coronavirus, this particular one that causes COVID-19, is not sexually transmitted. However, any
Caution
contact,
is advised.
caution is advised, because if you come in contact with somebody actively symptomatic, they have a cough, they have a fever, they're
sore throat and
sneezing,
stuff.
and these droplets come to you, whether you have sexual relationships with this person or it's your house manager, they are at risk of getting
So
coronavirus.
when you talk about a new world order, this new world order,
Sexual relations or house management.
hey,
Hey, Dr. Korir.
anyone in
What
the
do you say?
vicinity.
Dr. Korir is addressing the general public.
Right.
Yes.
She's alive to the realities.
That these things happen.
Yes, of this country.
Yes. So,
So kissing is
Out.
Can we say kissing is an absolute no-no? If you're talking about avoiding contact,
It's out.
talking about personal space, and what are we calling it? Social distancing,
Social
the buzzword,
distancing,
right?
Yes.
Kissing, no.
Out. If
If
WHO,
you're saying
if
hugging-
the
if you're
WHO
saying-
is not going to say it, let us say it for
If
them.
you're saying
It's
hugging
out.
is no,
no.
shaking hands is no, then kissing.
Kissing is far
Is
more
no, no.
intimate than
Yeah.
shaking hands. And
So-
even if someone who is sweating nods at you at close proximity, that's,
Okay.
Okay, I'm being facetious.
Yeah.
Sweating maybe not. Sweating maybe not. Because you see, what happens is the virus resides in the respiratory tract.
Yeah.
So anywhere that can release any of these droplets, either the nose or the mouth, means any of those two, as long as it comes in contact with you, then you're at risk. So sweating, not really, because that will require a whole other process for you to excrete the virus via your sweat glands.
All right. So I saw
So-
somebody yesterday raising this question, and their concern was, I still see people in the gym.
Yes, actually, I saw that one, and that's what I was saying. I was hoping that the government is a bit more bold on some of these things,
Shut
because
down all these places.
yeah, because these are places where if we do not say close down or do some measures, then we'll
it's
all
not going
go.
to happen.
Then you'll find 15, 20 of us in the gym. We will sweat, we will touch all of those
Leave
places,
it all
or
in
I'll
there
cough,
and then go.
you know,
Yeah.
who is coming to sanitize the treadmill that I'm using, for example, or the dumbbells that I'm lifting? Who's coming to disinfect and sanitize them before the next person?
Right.
So you see, since you cannot guarantee the sterility of that place, then it's best to avoid. So for me, any place that calls for more than 5 people is risky, because where there are more than 5 people, it means it may be difficult to keep the 1 meter
Yeah.
social distancing. It may be difficult for you to clean up and make sure that the place is well disinfected.
Okay, another question, and this just on social media yesterday, interestingly enough, 13 people asked this question in terms of then intimacy with your children, kissing, hugging your kids, which is something that you would normally do. What would be the warnings against that?
Just do a ju from far.
From
Your
far.
children?
Away from
But
far.
nothing.
But I've
carries
I'm a bit
those
worried
actions.
about you.
That's one thing.
I'm concerned.
You haven't done a ju with the children.
I actually spoke to my children like normal human beings from the very beginning.
Yeah, and you never did a ju.
Interesting, you know, and they
Juju.
actually learned to
You
speak really
denied
quickly.
them childhood.
Childhood. But I've seen
Please, Dr. Korir.
I've seen parents now explaining to children about social distancing.
Yeah.
And there are parents who've gone home and it's the children who are telling them what to do on social distancing. So I think for me, we shouldn't underestimate children. If you explain to them what's happening, they'll be able to understand and know that this is just for
A period.
a period of time.
Yep.
And luckily, I think from global statistics and what we've seen, children luckily have not suffered as much as the older population.
Yeah, it's true. We
Children
had a
haven't-
6-month-old case in
Yeah.
Nigeria, though, yesterday. A 6-month-old baby having been infected with COVID. But on the large, we haven't heard much. coming
Children
from
have
children.
actually done well,
Very well.
during this period. So it doesn't mean they're not at risk. They are like everyone else. But as a parent, you have to weigh
Okay.
and see. The same, so this, we're talking about social distancing from everyone else, but now when it comes to now this close relationships, you have to really weigh. And at this point, let me talk about the issue. People are saying now we are on self-quarantine, stay at home. What happens when I pass, if I'm infected and I pass this to my spouse or my child or anyone in the household? The thing is, you cannot stop the spread of this coronavirus. You can either delay or contain. So the point of staying at home is that if you fall sick, and by extension your wife, we are able to know and limit it to that household. Remember that this disease is not a killer disease as such, because 97% of people have recovered. So it means even if you have it in the household and you're well monitored, you're well managed, you'll pull through.
Yep.
And you will have saved the other neighborhood and the community and other people who you may not know or who you may not be interacting with on a daily basis from getting this virus. So it's about delaying transmission, and when the transmission ultimately happens, then you have contained it within a controlled environment where you're able to manage and avoid a wider spread as we've seen in the other countries.
Let's come back to the kids. Kids are at home. Kids are playing outside. They just still want to go out and play. Yes, they're learning from home, but during break time, they want to go and play with the kids downstairs or outside. What about that?
Well, that's
Is this one of those that we should say, no?
This one, and I've seen in several groups and several conversations, and even with the other doctors, it's a difficult one to manage, and not even just the kids. If, let's say, all of us are at home, 1 day, 2 day, by the third day,
They have
you'll be
cabin
going
fever.
crazy
Yeah.
because you've run out of things to do. You've run out of ideas. So for kids, they don't even have to eat for a day. 6 hours in one confined space, and things are bad. So this one, I honestly do not have a straight answer that to say no.
We have an
But we
answer.
have to be
No.
You have to be creative on how to keep your kids busy. You have to just be creative.
Unless then you can control where you say that, yes, we just want to have that kind of physical exercise. So we're going outside for physical exercise. You can play, you can walk around, but maintain that same social distance.
We've seen
It's
that a lot of
difficult to let the
estates-
children go out by themselves and maintain social distance.
Right, we've seen a lot of estates have then asked, I mean, in circulars that have been sent out recently, is that estates have said if you're going to let your children out, they should be under the supervision of an adult to make sure that they're not mixing them with other children and that they're maintaining that distance, and then not for prolonged periods of time. They're saying 30 minutes to 1 hour, they can have some outside time
That
and
thing
then
isn't
bring them
going to
back
work.
into the house.
It's
And
difficult
I'm
for
saying
children.
it's going
It's
to be
not-
very
it's not
difficult.
going to work.
You're not going to be able to tell a 5-year-old, play right here for the next 30 minutes and then we're going to go straight back to the house.
Did it work in
So
Wuhan?
you'd rather keep them in the house.
If it worked in Wuhan, it will work in Kenya.
It's not going to work
Why?
in Kenya as we are currently constituted until the government begins by issuing a complete lockdown.
Yep.
You start with that so that we know there
in the
is
house.
no
There's no
movement.
movement.
Then everything else follows. But this fluid situation we have here, where anyone can think what they like and interpret things the way they see fit,
Yep.
it is not going to work.
It's going to be a difficult one. But I think the advice here is ensure that as much as possible, avoid
Avoid
going out.
going
Because
out,
again,
avoid
even if you go out
interactions.
and this child is going, so the child is alone on the swing, but there was another child on the swing
on that swing.
who has come and done
And
disinfected.
you know how
the-
children play.
Yeah, who has disinfected that playground?
Or better still, other children will come to your house, your child will go to their house.
Yeah.
You see, this whole thing, the idea of keeping them indoors, let's say they live in a gated community or in an estate, you keep them within the estate, it is containment, yes.
Yes.
And it is good because then at least they're all there. And if they play within there or they walk within there, it is fine. But you see, these are directions that need to be clear. What you are hearing are general directives, and then
Well,
an
we
escape
urge
clause
you.
is provided. That escape clause is the dangerous thing now.
That's why we'll,
Because it opens up the whole discussion now. It actually nullifies the previous statement.
Right. So then the questions, this is the thing, and I was talking about communication. You don't want to leave any room where people will then ask questions. Because in this case where you say that children should go out and play and they should be supervised by an adult, somebody will now come and say, actually, I have a 16-year-old. Can the 16-year-old then go and watch the 5 and 3-year-old kind of thing? People start bringing in their own solutions to things.
They will.
And
The
it needs to be,
16-year-old is going to be busy on their phone.
Yeah.
Will they be watching what another
supervision
child
are they
is
going to be
doing?
doing?
Nothing.
Right.
Nothing.
So this is the thing. I do agree 100% that it needs to be clear.
expressed.
It needs to be this and not comma, as we say. There shouldn't be place for comma. Period. And we're done from there. So yeah, if truly we are saying that we are in a serious situation, then all the remedies and solutions must be just as serious.
The directive should be to that effect. That
Yes,
we're in
they
a
should be
dire
succinct.
situation.
Very clear.
Not we urge you.
No, don't
Because
urge.
there's not
Urging,
we urge
calling
you.
for public participation.
Yeah.
Don't.
And
don't,
giving us
don't,
2 weeks to
don't,
give feedback.
don't.
It'll not work.
This isn't one of those situations where you want this nonsensical latitude. No. This is one of those situations where human lives are more important than human rights. Okay? It's that simple. Because this rights thing, people are going to die
With their rights.
with those rights, dead. So the rights will die with you. You are better off being confined and staying alive until this thing passes so you can continue
And then you
being
can do
alive.
whatever you
And
want.
as you're
thereafter.
listening to us, stop saying, "Oh, my child is mature. They'll listen to me."
No.
Stop taking those chances. You want to talk to Dr. Mercy Career? Call us in 0719-012-600. That's 0719-012-600. Ask Dr. Mercy. 18 minutes after 7 o'clock. Good morning.
You are tuned in to Nairobi's
Lightning
number one
showers
soul
across
station,
Nairobi at
Spice
16
FM.
degrees, likely to carry on through the day with highs of 25. Looking into Nyeri this morning, mostly cloudy conditions at 16. Chance of rain later on, then with highs of 24. And in Nakuru today at 16 degrees, mostly cloudy and opening up to rain early this morning. Highs of 24 and lows of 14. In Eldoret at 13 degrees. It's clear skies this morning, but a chance of rain later with highs of 24. In Kisumu at 19 degrees, it's clear skies, but there will come rain in the afternoon with highs of 28. Mombasa is partly cloudy, mostly it's quite sunny in some parts as well. Highs of 32 and lows of 26 with a chance of rain later on. Malindi is mostly sunny right now. The chance of rain later then with highs of 32 and lows of 26. In Kampala, it's a dark morning, cloudy skies, thunderstorms expected later with highs of 25 and lows of 19. In Dar es Salaam, it's a mostly cloudy morning, chance of rain there as well with highs of 32 and lows of 25. It's mostly sunny in Johannesburg at 13 degrees. It's going to remain that way with highs of 24 and lows of 13. In Lagos, it's clear skies for most of the day, highs of 34 and lows of 26. Taking a look into London, where it's a cloudy morning today at 8 degrees, highs of 9 and lows of 6. In Paris at 10 degrees, it's partly cloudy this morning and all through the day with highs of 20 and lows of 9. Wrapping things up in New York at 8 degrees, it's light showers through most of the day into heavier rain later with highs of 13 and lows of 6.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Spice FM.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
20 minutes after 7 o'clock, this is the Situation Room. In the room, we have Nduo Ko, Eric Latif, Chrysanthus Theodore Muga, and Dr. Mercy Career.
Good morning.
Let me ask the question, Daktari. Let me ask the question.
Yes.
All right. Epidemiologically speaking, there are known patterns that viruses or trends that viruses tend to have. Meaning, it starts, it peaks, it reaches a certain plateau. Yes. Then it dips.
Then it dips, yeah.
Yes. Now, would you say that the patterns we've seen in Europe, would you say there are patterns that we can expect in Kenya?
Well, hopefully not. And this is the reason why. If you've seen, there was a campaign about flatten the curve.
Yes.
because borrowing from Italy is like the worst affected country after China, because what happened was people were behaving like we are behaving, then all of a sudden there's a surge, and that's why they've had a crash. But it has been shown, and looking at the other provinces in China apart from Hubei, where when Hubei was struggling, they did a lockdown. They started a lockdown. So what happened was the numbers, as I said, the numbers are expected to grow. The numbers will grow. But at what rate are they growing? So in those other provinces, what happened was the curve was steady. So you're able to manage.
It didn't spike.
It didn't spike. The problem is the spike. Because with the spike, it means it demands a lot of the health service,
Meaning
of the health system.
no healthcare system can actually cope with that spike.
No healthcare system can cope with that spike. So the point is, and that's why personally and as medics, we are advocating that there's a total lockdown, or we will deal with the economy and everything later, because the people will still be alive to revive the economy. Because if that spike happens, if Italy crashed, what about this country where our health system is in a sorry state? We will not be able to manage. We will not be able to manage. So the point is, let the numbers grow gradually. And I've been saying people are getting worried. Oh my God, the numbers are now 7. Oh my God, are there more? Oh my God, the government is not telling us. I'm like, no, the numbers increasing is not a problem. They will increase. Those numbers, it will increase.
Yep.
But at what rate are they increasing? If it is steady, if it is 1 a day, 2 a day, it is fine.
That's fine.
And luckily, so far, the 7 people that have been diagnosed are stable.
Yep.
So it means that they can even go. They
They're not
can
even
even
straining
go
the
home. They
ICU.
don't even need to be in hospital in the first place, because with this, and that was the other question that people ask: where can I go to get tested? Which hospital can I go to? I'm like, you don't need to go to hospital. Not everyone with a cough, not everyone with a fever needs to go to hospital to get tested, because remember, we have COVID at the moment, the threat of coronavirus, but mothers still need to deliver. People are still getting strokes and heart attacks.
Yep. People need dialysis services.
People still need dialysis. As in, there are other things. People still need to go for chemotherapy, radiotherapy, and all of those things. Those other things are still happening. So if you have a cough and you're scared that it's coronavirus and you run to the hospital, what are you doing to the health workforce that should be reserved for the in case the situation gets bad and you need them to be reactivated? So if everyone is rushing to hospital because they're scared.
So what should they do?
So actually what you should do, there's a clear case definition where, one, if you have a cough or fever or difficulty in breathing, those are like the cardinal symptoms of this COVID-19, plus one of these other two. That one, you have come in contact with somebody who has been confirmed to have coronavirus, this new coronavirus, or you have been taking care of somebody confirmed to have coronavirus. That's one. Two, if you have had a recent travel to any of those high-risk areas, then you are likely, you fit the definition. But it doesn't mean you run to hospital and now, can I get tested for coronavirus? Because, as I was saying, and I think it's been very controversial, because the WHO is saying test. I was telling people, if you test and it's confirmed you have coronavirus, the management is the same. Isolate.
Oh, you still do the same.
Yeah, isolate, manage the fever. You need to hydrate as much as possible. It's like how you would do a common cold. Whether you go to hospital or at home, you'll still need to do the same. So the people that absolutely have to seek medical care or have to go to hospital are who are calling the vulnerable in society.
Okay.
Our elderly, people with pre-existing conditions like diabetes, cancer, or any treatment that has suppressed the immunity. Those are people that this disease has absolutely not spared. So those are the people that need to go or to seek medical attention as soon as possible. But if you have been doing well, and you have not even come in contact with any of these people, just stay home, self-isolate, manage. The symptoms will wane. And as we said, 97% of people have survived. The 3%.
So I don't need to go to hospital to get an antibiotic, to get cough medicine.
Nope. In fact, that's just overwhelming the system because, and I've been talking to my colleagues in some of these outpatient facilities,
Yeah.
they're overwhelmed already by people
coming in saying,
I think
"I'm
I have
coughing."
I'm coughing. Might I have coronavirus? So you tire these people, yet in that one instance, there could be that one person
Who would have it?
who would have it. So if you don't have it and you're running to hospital because you're worried you might have it, and there's somebody else who has it, you
But
will
some of them have
definitely
genuine fears, Dr.
You-
So somebody, you may think, all
And-
right, where have I been in the last 7 days or 14 days? I have been to a supermarket, a mall. I don't know who else has been here. So it's possible that I may have been exposed to this.
True.
I'm coughing. I have a fever.
True.
3 weeks ago, I was coughing. I had a fever.
True.
And at the back of my mind, I was thinking, well, I haven't come into contact really per se, but I don't know.
True, you don't know, but you don't need to go to hospital to get that answer. You've said isolate. You know, everyone is going to hospital. That one instance where one of the people you're running to hospital with has coronavirus, even if you didn't have it, now you
get
will
it.
come in contact. So if you do not strictly meet that case definition that I've said, where you have symptoms and you've come in direct contact, or you have been to any one of those places, self-isolate. Just wait. In 5 days, it will be clear. In another 14 days, you will be well and you will be up and running. Leave the hospital for the vulnerable and for those people who must absolutely go to hospital.
Okay.
Because
if you exhibit those symptoms that we're speaking of, shouldn't there be a clear message as to what one should do?
So which is what I'm coming to. The Ministry of Health has the hotline and the 719, and they have medics manning that hotline. So just call. Don't leave your house. Because already, even if in the event that you have you've been infected and you're leaving your house, how are you going to that health facility? How many other people are you exposing on your way to that health facility or wherever it is that you're going? So this is not just about me now. We have to think about the society.
Yeah.
So the 719 has medics, they are manning it. They have the other hotline numbers where somebody can call and you can have somebody, a medic, talk you through this. But the thing is, self-isolate, remain calm. We want to contain and manage it where it is.
Sounds to me, Dr. like you're saying, those 7 that are already in hospital should not have gone to hospital.
They should
Because
have.
going by that logic, they were not, I mean, they don't have those other pre-existing conditions. They were not in dire need of medical care.
Remember, the 7 have had history of travel.
Yeah.
They were symptomatic by the time they were going to hospital. So those ones needed 2. But now we're saying, since we don't know anyone else, if you don't strictly meet that criteria, do not go to hospital.
Do you think it is important for the government to initiate testing?
We cannot afford to do testing. Even globally, people haven't managed to do testing. For
Well,
example, as a
actually,
country, we
explain
have...
this. Why is it not possible to test?
Remember, this is a new virus.
Yes.
The testing kits had to be developed immediately.
Yes.
There's a big demand for them everywhere.
Yes, good
the country,
business.
as we speak now, I think we should have about 1,000 or 2,000 testing kits
In Kenya.
in Kenya. So, and you have 47.5 million Kenyans. Let's see if you are to test everyone. Who will you test? Who will you not test? So this is that situation. And as medics, we face some of these things almost on a daily
regular basis.
where you have to prioritize. That's why for me, I'm saying at this point in time, for the vulnerable, for the people with pre-existing conditions, those are the people we should reserve these things for. People who are suspect are the people we should reserve this for. So if we test Dr. Koreri because she's worried that she might have come in contact with somebody with coronavirus, yet I have not been attending to any patient, I have not traveled within the last 14 days, then it's a waste of resources. So we are at a point where we have to prioritize who...
Cut your cloth.
Who needs
coat.
this most. And we also have to think about what we call, is this diagnosis going to inform management of this patient? If I find out that you have coronavirus and you're healthy, is it going to change management? If you're diabetic or if you have cancer, I need to know what you have so that I need to, I plan, do I need to step up Do I need to scale down? Do I
Yeah.
need to put you in ICU or something? 'Cause that one affects management. But for somebody who's healthy, we do not
No
have
point.
enough resources for everyone. So we have to.
The
manage.
question I'm actually asking.
Hold on, City. Let's. We have a caller on the line. This is Zachary calling in from Nakuru. Ask Dr. Marcy 0719 012 600. Zachary, good morning.
Morning, guys. Good conversation that you are having, and I want to agree with whatever Daktari is saying, that the government needs to act serious. Let them up their game, and let orders be given from a central point. Because this issue of this governor is saying you have closed the mortuaries, the other one is saying we have decided to close the open air market. The other one is saying that we have decided to close the bars. That one there is disorientation. And I think we are not giving the seriousness that deserves this issue. And let me Mwalimu will tell you there that the guys who invented the kilo, we don't agree with them. But that kilo, the definition and whatever it entails, actually determines the value of your money. And we call them professionals. So why are we arguing, and why are we not following what the medical professionals are telling us? So actually, let the government start giving orders, not suggestions, so that we can probably argue with them, orders, so that we control this thing.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Zachary, and for that call and the feedback. Daktari, so we're going to take a short break, that we go and take a look at traffic, and then we come back. The conversation continues. We have Dr. Marcy Korir in the studio. She's Standard Group's medical journalist. She's here. She understands a lot more about this than we do, and that's why she's here to help us, unravel this unfolding situation. This is a Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. 27 minutes to 8 o'clock. Ask Dr. Marcy. 0719 012 600 is the number to call. That's 0719 012 600.
Okay, so there was no traffic on Mombasa Road, and then the bread truck overturned because it was going so fast. So there's bread all over Mombasa Road at this point. So you want to approach with caution. Mwayaki Way, there's no jam whatsoever coming from Kikuyu all the way down into the CBD. Very clear. Ngong Road, everywhere that we're looking at. And then here we have it, an accident just before Muthaiga coming from town outbound on Thika Road. So yes, we know there's no traffic and the rains are coming down this morning. So you want to be careful so that we can avoid situations just like this. From Thika to town, 30 minutes today. So it's looking a lot better because there's no traffic. But at the same time, then we're going to ask you guys to take this thing very carefully because we want to avoid the accidents that we're seeing already. Spice FM KE is how you can reach us on Twitter. Let us know what you see so that we can be careful even when there's no traffic.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
Ask Dr. Marcy 0719 012 600. William calling in from Diani. Good morning.
Good morning to you. Well, what Dr. Marcy suggests is actually something close to the science of wartime triage. Wartime triage only works when you have a working healthcare system. Now, if you've had recent sentiments from the New York governor, Cuomo, what he's been stressing that even in states, the independent states, they cannot function without the assistance or the direction of the federal government because it's a national problem. And I would be looking at the Kenyan scenario and imagining that our approach on how we are going to allocate medical resources or how we are going to give out rules and regulations to conduct ourselves during this time should actually be coordinated nationally. And we have to remember that we are working from a background of a healthcare system that doesn't work, or on a background of a larger percentage of our population actually not even on a healthcare plan, not insured. We are working with a population that is self-employed. Majority of it is actually unemployed. So then again, in a scenario where now government literally has to provide 100% of the resources that are supposed to be input to mitigate the kind of issue that we are facing at the moment.
Thank you very much, William. Asante sana. Let's hear from Abednego in Kasarani. Good morning, Abednego.
Good morning. My question to the Daktari was, hello?
Go ahead.
If somebody survives corona, is there a side effect in the survivor's body?
Thank you very much for that question. Actually, I think you can actually answer that one straight, Daktari.
I think we can start with that one. So, Abednego, remember that this is a new virus. Scientists are still trying to learn and understand what this is, its effects and whatnot. So far, studies are still continuing on those survivors to find out, was there any adverse effects? And I know I've seen some literature and some conversations from doctors who have attended to some of these patients in other countries about their respiratory system, their lungs being affected when they survive this. But these were those who had been critical. But the people who had mild symptoms really have lived it like it's a mild common cold or something else. So this is something that is still being explored. At the moment, we cannot say it has any adverse effects. So probably this is something that we still need to see. I remember when the Ebola happened, and I think after the scare and the epidemic and everything, is when they found out that the Ebola virus could still be found in men's semen after some months. I think it was about 90 days, 3 months later, after they had gone through Ebola. So this is something that we'll probably get to understand after we come out of this. Yes, but at the moment it is delay and contain.
Okay. One question, I guess, before we go through is that, what then should people do while at home if you're, if maintaining social distancing one to the other, but then at home in terms of cleanliness and making sure that you're sanitizing. The question is that I've sanitized in the morning. What then? And I'm at home. I've not gone anywhere. I've not left my house. Do I need to continue? And
how often?
And how often should
and
I
before
do
you
this?
answer that, let's also pick Peter, who's calling in from Nairobi. Good morning, Peter.
Good morning. How are you, Daktari? Good. I concur with Daktari that the test should be prioritized for the vulnerable, like the elderly, the pregnant moms, and those who have pre-existing conditions. And again, just to ask, I understand there's a new virus, scientists are still testing, but a mother who is in the early stage of pregnancy, where they are having these their responses to the pregnancy, what's the impact of this virus to such mothers in the early stages of pregnancy?
Thank you very much, Peter. Answer those ones, Dr.
Okay. Okay, there have been many. Let me start with the one on sanitizing. There's been a craze about buying sanitizers and all of those things. People have bought them off the shelves. And for me, really, the best disinfectant is any bleach. You dilute in water, and almost every other home has a bleach of whatever brand. You dilute in water, and that's what you use to clean your home, to clean your surfaces as often as possible. There are people who live in places that are dusty. There are people who live in places that are not. So depending on your general environment, you maintain it clean as often as possible. I cannot say 3 times a day, 4 times a day, as often as possible. And for people who have children at home, children will be all over the place. They'll go out, they'll come back. So clean as often as possible. And as I said, again, at this point, children will probably be the ones to teach parents, because I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday, and her daughter is the one reminding everyone in the house to clean their hands, because they know anytime you go anywhere, you come back, you have to clean, and it's soap and water. This, we want to look for all fancy things, but hata ile sabuni ya kipande iko tu sawa. Actually, it's the best. If it can remove stains in clothes, why
What
can't
can
it
it do to
clean
germs
your
on your
hands? So we should stop going crazy and looking for all fancy things, and just use the basic things in the house, because it's about cleanliness and hygiene. There was a time I was in Ghana, and they use ash and water. And it works, because not everyone has access to soap. So for the places that don't have access to soap, those are some of the options.
Yeah.
I think that's interesting, and maybe to say that again, Daktari, because that has come up in terms of what people are able to afford and what they're not able to be afford, because there's a huge percentage who even soap is a luxury.
Even soap is a luxury.
Yeah.
So ash.
Ash,
can
like
be used,
the stuff that comes out of like the jiko when you're done, right?
The jiko, of the firewood, you can use that. That's one. And then people are saying, okay, we don't all have running water. Running water doesn't mean tap. Water in your jug, and you pour it, that is running water. The point is to avoid the water in a basin where you stagnant, and you dip your hands and you reinfect. So as long as it is water that you don't take it back again, then that works.
There's a second question, of course, that was asked by Peter, who called, but I have Stephen on the line, and let's not keep him on the line. So let's just take his question, then you can answer the two of them. Good morning, Stephen.
Yes, good morning. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Yeah, my question. My question is, does this virus, when you get in contact with somebody who might have the virus, and let's say that it gets into your body, not necessarily your mouth or eyes, like your face side, can it affect you in any given way? Like if it stays just on your hand or part of your body, does it get through your pores, something like that?
Good question, Daktari.
Good question. The mouth, the eyes, remember these are places that have their surfaces, the mucosa has access to.
Did I hear the word membrane the other day?
Yes, I think membrane is a better word, that has access to your body. So as long as this virus can get into your body, it doesn't matter where, but your eyes are the best place, your nose and your mouth. That's why children are told not to touch men. Mouth, eyes, nose. Those are the easy entry points for the virus, and it will just multiply, and you'll get the symptoms of coronavirus, because it will make its way into your respiratory system. Peter had asked about the pregnant women in early stages of pregnancy. So, and City Muga will tell us, initially when HIV came in, we didn't really know about mother-to-child transmission.
We actually knew nothing about it. You didn't know, as I said, whether it was mosquitoes that transmitted it. A lot of the information that we now have was cumulative over the years. Yes.
True. So the same with this, I would advise that anyone who is pregnant, because we have put all of those people under vulnerable groups, to just be on high alert, to be the ones who are maintaining social distance as much as possible, to be the ones that are maintaining cleanliness and hygiene and all of those things, because we do not know the effect that it will have on pregnancy.
In fact, when you talk about mother-to-child transmission, one of the great dangers, or should we say that one of the greatest concerns at that point in time was, if a mother who was HIV positive got pregnant, what were the chances that the child would also be HIV positive? But again, the efforts that were put into ensuring that proper treatment was found came up with a drug called nevirapine. And with nevirapine, you were now able to mitigate very, very well against a child within the mother's womb actually getting the virus before they were born. Now, it's the same with this virus. So it leads to a question that I have to ask Dr. Mercy. If we were to borrow from HIV and the treatment and the efforts that were made in this country, if we had a similar structure, or we borrowed heavily from that structure in dealing with this particular danger that we now have, would we have greater chances of success?
Borrowing from what part
for
of
instance,
the structure?
Structure as in, you want to ensure that the messaging is from everyone, whether it's from the pulpit, whether it's from the media, whether every possible access that you can pass on the message, because we're still struggling with messaging.
Actually, you've raised an important point. Yesterday, I had an interview with the current CEO Nairobi Hospital, Dr. Pamba, and this is actually something he raised, that the people who have capital in society, our leaders, should be informed of the proper messaging, so that they inform their masses or the people they have say over, so that we all have the same message. Because as it is now, and Zachary raised it, where there are so many gaps in communication. The national government says this, the governor says this, somebody else says this, so they're all
It's not standardized and uniform.
It's not standardized and uniform. So that's why you find all this problem. People are still asking questions. People are not sure why we closed the morgues, for example.
You see,
why are we burying? So if there was a standardized message, so that whether you're the governor of Turkana or the governor of Kakamega or you're the president, we are all speaking the same language, then Mwananchi would be clear on what to do and the places to go. So when we have several centers of power, and it's actually something we were discussing, like it seems like everyone wants to ride on the COVID-19 wave.
Yes.
Because it seems to give them some sort of
It's
mileage.
the only one. Now minus BBI, where else do you turn to?
But you see, we run the danger of... this is a matter of life and death for many people.
Misinformation.
So misinformation might cost us people. So at this point is the point to leave our political differences, all of those differences, and to speak one message.
Is there one
health.
message coming from the Ministry of Health? Has the Ministry of Health, like you've been covering this committee, especially this crisis management committee, is there one message that they're saying, this is the message and this is how we're going to distribute this message?
I think the message that has been clear from the Ministry of Health and from that committee.
Dr. Are you going to allow me to contradict you here?
And can I add one thing also? Because in today's reports, the Council of Governors chair...
Now that all of you have come into my question, we are going into a break. She will answer my question first. And then
it's a contributory element to your question.
It's a point of information.
He has
point
said...
of information, Madam Speaker. 12 minutes to 8 o'clock. Good morning.
Spice up your life. Online, mobile, and on radio. www.spiceradio.co.ke. Online, mobile, and on radio. Facebook at Spice FM KE. Mature, intelligent talk every morning.
Answer your...
so before City
before
contradicts
City
me
contradicts
here...
and before Ndu asks
yes.
a supplementary question.
So I think the message from the Ministry of Health has been on our own personal initiatives to maintain hygiene, to report just in case there is a suspected case. But now, even when they say to report, they haven't been very clear on the case definitions and the protocols. And these are some of the things that are still being worked on, like on the protocols and the guidelines. They're still working on them. So at the moment, it's about us as Wananchi, what we need to do as they do the other preparations. So for me, how I say it is that the front line in this war and pandemic is you and I. What we are doing, it's not even our healthcare workers. I know you said they are the front line, but the front line is actually you and I, where we just not think about myself and my cleanliness and my hygiene, but also about your neighbor and keeping that social distance and whatnot. So that's the front line. So the second line of defense is your healthcare worker, where now, in case somebody needs to go to hospital. And that's why we are now, was it William who talked about triage, where we have to know what triage is, And it's what I was explaining, where if you don't meet that case definition, just relax and stay at home. If you meet that case definition and you are in the vulnerable group, then you can seek health advice, and you can call, you can go to a health facility, depending on how the situation is. Because if somebody has difficulty in breathing and they are gasping, you don't want to start calling. You want to rush first of all. And then when people get to health facility, and this is one of the things that caused problems in Italy, I think it was the fourth person who was diagnosed or somewhere thereabout, did not say that they had traveled, they had come in contact with somebody who had been to Wuhan.
Oh, wow.
So by the time that was found out, they had gone to a health facility twice. Because the first time you go and you don't say you've come in contact or you've traveled, I will not pick it because I'll think you have a common cold. Then you'll go and you'll come back. And then you will meet another set of healthcare workers. So this is the point where you need to shout that I have been in contact directly, or I have been to any one of these places. And now it's not even those specific places, but anyone who has been traveling. Because you have been in airports, you don't know who you've met. So anyone who's been traveling needs to say it loudly so that you are treated a high index of suspicion, so as to safeguard also the healthcare workers. So this person in Italy got well, but the healthcare workers, some did not, did not leave. So you see, this is a matter where we are the front line, where saying some of this information is important. And now on William in Diani said that our healthcare system doesn't work, people don't have insurance and whatnot. But I would want to say the system works. We have just not utilized it. Thailand, I think, has less than 300 cases during all this time. And because their system is just like ours, where you have a national referral, or you have a referral, a level 5, level 4, level 3, but all of this system have a clear communication. We have all these things in place where people know who to call, where to go, what to do. So this is probably the time where we need to make sure we utilize some of these places.
So you're saying our system works, but
we have not taken advantage of it. Let me say it like that.
Our system is in place.
It's in place.
But we haven't optimized its use.
We haven't. Like Nairobi has, I think, 86 health facilities. But everyone goes to Kenyatta, Mbagathi, Pumwani, and Mama Lucy.
Why do they?
To make these
why do they?
Because
that's what they know.
This is what I'm saying. We haven't activated them. For example, I've gone to one of the health centers. I will not say which one. And they have all the stuff. But when you go, you're told the nurse comes in. They always come in at 10 a.m. Why? Or they close by 4 p.m.
Do they have commodities?
Some of these places actually do. Some of these places actually do.
So why do they have that particular way of working?
That's another conversation we should have another time, because it's a whole big conversation in itself.
Daktari, does the system work? The system is in place. Does it work?
The system is not just personnel. It's also not just the building. The patients who need care are there. There's no question. So that part of the equation is already filled. Now, the care that they require is in that facility called a hospital, and it's supposed to have health workers who can provide it, and they require commodities, they require apparatuses, they require equipment. Now, all these things comprise what we call the system. Is that not so?
So, yes, it does. Let me give... So, in that particular place, I was just going to see about maternal health. They have vaccines. They have all of those basic things, but because they have this set time in which they work, or they are not usually there sometimes, people have learned to go elsewhere. So what happens is some of these things are not utilized.
Yeah.
So we're not talking about fancy ICU and whatnot. Even
The
wound
infrastructure
cleaning,
is
for
in
example.
place. The soft side of the infrastructure of stuff is not working.
Can I ask then, if looking at these 86 facilities then with within Nairobi, if we're looking at it vis-a-vis COVID-19, would you say that they are prepared to handle cases that would be walk-ins?
Okay, so now that's the other thing about our preparedness on this. We are not prepared optimally for COVID-19 as as a country. You've seen on page 8 of the Standard, Oparanya is saying that counties are ill-equipped, and it's true. But looking at the resources that we have and looking at the probability of COVID-19, my question would be, do we need to have everywhere prepared the same? Or do we prioritize the high-risk
areas?
Let me ask the question, which country in the world is actually prepared for this particular virus?
No one is. And actually the WHO says you cannot be fully prepared for it. So for me,
So the measure here is, which one is the most ill-prepared? Because really, if they're all not prepared...
Actually, I would look at it differently.
Please.
Which are our high-risk counties?
Yes.
Nairobi.
Metropolitan
region. That includes Machakos, Kajiado. You go to Eldoret, everywhere with a port. Any county with a port of entry. That's a high-risk area. So for me, I would rather concentrate resources in those particular areas. You'd rather have a functioning isolation unit in Busia, for example, as opposed to having one in another county. Let me not say which one, then people will say I've discriminated. In another that is not a high-risk county, you'd rather start there, because if you're to report a case, where would it likely be? It is one of those points of entry. And look at the cases we've reported in Nairobi. It's everyone who's coming through JKIA. So those are the areas. So then the isolation is, I've seen many people are painting and putting in beds. There's a standard to having a proper isolation unit where it has negative pressure and all of... There's a standard one, which costs a lot of money. So if you have to have an ideal one, then you should concentrate your resources to the places where it would be likely needed. And the Ministry of Health has a list of the 14 high-risk countries.
What does an isolation facility look like?
It has to have negative pressure, so that
What is negative pressure?
You have to help me with that.
First of all, why don't
pressure from the outside?
Actually, why don't you start with something that's easy to understand? It must be well ventilated. Start there, all right? Essentially, what you're being told is this: it must be an area where even the remotest possibility of the infection leaving that particular premises is reduced to a point of near zero.
Right.
Okay, because the zero element is almost difficult to arrive at, but it's near zero. That's what it means. Yes.
In the case of COVID, which is droplets and surfaces, if the person is on a bed and you strap them on, they're on the bed, see, it's not living.
You know, you really must change the sort of movies you watch, Eric.
Give us today's proverb. Just remind us today's proverb as we go to the top of the hour city. We'll come back onto this question of, trying to understand, because there's a lot of questions that come out of the public. These facilities at Magathi and KNH, surely they came up with them in 7 days. Really, are they properly equipped? What is their as an isolation? If Magathi is an isolation facility and you're telling me to go and self-isolate at home, then it should just be Magathi should just be like home. Today's proverb.
You do not climb. You do not climb a pepper tree, but rather you go round it.
You do not climb a pepper tree, but you'd rather go around it. But rather you go around it.
Go around it.
I'd rather go around it.
It's Nigeria proverb. It's a Nigerian proverb. Thank you very much for tuning in. This is a situation room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. I was about to say it's Kenya's biggest proverb. You can call in and speak to Dr. Mercy. Dr. Mercy Karil, Standard Group's medical journalist, is in the studio. She's our guest host this morning. Call and ask your questions regarding coronavirus, preparedness, what you need to do, what you need to know. Let's focus our questions on what we need to do and know, and leave the government to do what it ought to be doing. 0719 012 600. That's 0719 012 600. You can also post your questions on Facebook, Spice FM KE, at Spice FM KE on Twitter. Good morning, 8 o'clock.
Spice up your life. 102.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
Okay, no traffic on Gong Road, no traffic on Mombasa Road. It's clear Thika Road and Langata Road as well. People are either not going to work or have left already. 15 minutes is going to take you to get from any direction really right into the city center. It's clear on Limuru Road all the way from Banana to the middle of town. Also flowing very well right after Utali. There's still showers in certain parts of the city though, so where you do have any pockets of traffic is because people have slowed it down because of the early morning rain. It's super fast everywhere we see. If it does slow down for you because of anything, do let us know. Spice FMKE on Twitter, or give us a call if you need to, and we continue with the information that you give us.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4
This
Spice
is The
FM,
Situation,
Nairobi.
Biggest conversation broadcasting from Nairobi to Mombasa, Kisumu, Nakuru, Eldoret, Nyeri, Malindi, worldwide on www.spicefm.co.ke. Join the conversation on our social media platforms, Spice FM KE, Facebook. We are live streaming. You can see a lot of your questions coming in there. Spice FM KE on Twitter, as well as Instagram, Spice FM KE. You can also comment on YouTube, Spice FM KE. We are live streaming. In the room this morning is Dr. Mercy Korir, Standard Media Group's medical journalist. She's here to give us insights into coronavirus and our preparedness. Dr. Korir, before we went into the traffic break, we're talking about the isolation facilities and the you're saying that there are standards to having an isolation facility.
Yes, which we do not have at the moment. What we have is what do you call it?
We actually have bed. We have some bed capacity.
Yes.
All right, and
wards.
And we have wards.
And wards set aside.
Yes.
Actually, yes.
Wards that have been isolated from the rest.
Yes.
Cordoned off.
Set aside for this, which at the moment is okay because the people that we have confirmed so far are not in critical condition. They are okay. They are fairly stable. They are okay. But now the problem will come if there is a need for critical care, which now that's when the problem will come. And that's why the call for stay at home. And you're wondering if the isolation wards should just be like home. But remember when we started this conversation, we said, do not overwhelm the health system. And remember that hospital you're going to has been going on. So you don't know what else you'll go and pick there.
Exactly.
The hospital infections and bags. So you don't know what you'll pick. So you're much safer at home with that one bag that can be contained in your household as opposed to going home and you're fairly healthy.
You know, hospital like a supermarket for bags.
And you'll pick something else.
Exactly.
So for me, I'd rather stay home. It can be contained and managed at home. Unless you're in any of the vulnerable groups, which allow me to repeat again, the elderly and those with any pre-existing condition or somebody who is on medication.
Pre-existing condition, you hear it from insurance companies. What is pre-existing
condition?
So
the pre-existing here is diabetes, HIV, cancer, any treatment that suppresses the immunity. High blood pressure. Any treatment that suppresses immunity, like people who've had kidney transplants or renal transplant and they're on immunosuppressants, they're put on steroids who are at risk. So there is that list any pre-existing condition. Cancer is one of them because you've seen that people, even the 21-year-old who had cancer and did not live for long when they got COVID. So any of those are people who are at high risk.
Okay.
If you do not fall in any of those conditions, just stay home.
Stay at home.
It can be managed at home.
There are many
Relax at
callers
home.
on the line. Let's start with Mwalimu Kamau, who's... Mwalimu Kamau, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Yes, what's your question to the Daktari?
Just wanted to know about the virus, kidogo. What happens if the virus maybe falls inside water and maybe you drink the water? Or if the virus falls on dust, then you breathe in the dust. Will you be infected with the virus? That's my question.
Good question.
Interesting. I'd actually not thought about it, or I've not seen anyone speaking about if it falls in water and you take it. But it's been shown to live on surfaces for between, I think, 6 hours to 24 hours. So, possibly, if it falls on water and if it's on surfaces for at least 6 hours and you drink the water, if it's in dust and you inhale it, you will probably...
The likelihood of getting it is very high.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, looking at crowded spaces, because right now we're just focusing on Kenya, and a lot of the questions that we have coming in even now on social media, one of them that rings out is this: in the absence of a total lockdown, people are still using public transport, matatus, very confined spaces for considerable amount of time over considerable distance. What should happen? Avoid matatus completely? People still need to get around? What should we do when in public transport?
I think that is the point where City started and Zachary agreed that if it's a lockdown, it's a lockdown.
Lockdown is lockdown.
But if you're still partial and your employer still expects you to go to work, how are you going to get to work? You cannot afford a taxi every day. And even that taxi, you'll not be the only one using it. So if it's a lockdown, let it be a lockdown. But as it is now, where we still have, we are doing this, we are doing that, then we still live in grey areas, because you cannot completely decontaminate or sanitize a matatu.
Yeah, even if you do your own little space with your own...
So what should you do?
What should we do? What should people do?
I still need to go to work, and the only means for me to go to work is using public transport. So what should I do?
I think now this calls, that's what I was saying, now it's about not just me, but also think about your neighbor. If I, in my small space, I've made sure I'm clean and my space is clean, the same city has done the same, it will be collective. That's the only appeal at the moment.
Yeah.
If there's no total lockdown.
Okay. So just trying to think, I'm just thinking top of my head. If I say I'm entering the matatu, I have ensured that I sanitize my hands, avoid touching the surfaces in a matatu, right?
Yes, as much as possible.
Observe those hygiene issues. It's difficult a bit because you have to find your way into sitting down. So minimize as much as possible. If you have to cough into what?
Disposable
tissue,
something you can dispose, or into your elbow. Basically, just cover
when you're coughing. And if you're sitting next to somebody who has coughed in the matatu, cover yourself as well.
Yeah.
All right. So those are the things that we can do, because if everybody does what they can do, then
it will be collective.
It's going to be a collective thing.
Yeah.
All right. What about habits that people normally have? Again, another question. In the absence of a lockdown, things that you would normally do: go to the barbershop, go to the salon. Do we need to stop ourselves from doing that right now?
Social distancing. That is part of social distancing. Even the bars that we are talking about, where everyone was out and about yesterday, they are posting pictures on Instagram and Facebook. Those should stop, because these are the same people who will be interacting with everyone. Then over the weekend, they are going to the village, and most of our elderly parents are in the village. And those are our vulnerable population.
You're likely to have picked it in a club last night, and then you take it to your mother in the village over the weekend.
You know, the thing that seems not to have been understood, this is not a normal situation that we are in. And this virus isn't a normal virus because it's new. There is so much we don't know about it. So the only way you begin managing it is by ensuring you contain it. Let's leave mitigation aside for that. Just mitigation becomes easier when you've contained people, because then they're in manageable groups. But so long as everyone is everywhere, then what you're then doing is actually enabling the virus to keep spreading. That's what you are doing. And so what we are seeing happening in the West can very easily be replicated here.
And it will
very easily.
We will suffer.
It'll hit us hard.
Oh,
It
extremely
hit us
hard. Extremely.
And it will take us years to recover. How I look at it is there are two sets of people here that are very critical. One is the public health specialist and the healthcare workforce, and two is the political class who are our leaders who need to make certain decisions. So the public health, the doctors are fairly straightforward. This is what we need to do because it gives these results. Give them that space to do that. But in the background, as politicians, as a government, you need now to support these efforts.
Make those decisions.
If they have said social distancing works, just take the bold step. I know people are worried about the economy, money in people's pockets, but this is now where the government comes in.
Which is more important, your life or
or your pocket?
That's what I've said in two fronts.
Yeah.
Since we know social distancing and all these measures will work, then the government then should think about how do we enable social distancing. If I need to go to work to earn my daily wage and now I'm not able to, can the government put money in my pocket? Because see, those are the conversations we are supposed to have, because distancing,
and they should not be taking
lockdown,
place in 2 weeks.
It should have taken place before Friday the 13th.
It's a 24-hour conversation, and you come out and say, all right, we are tujalala, na hivi ndio tumeamua.
And actually,
let's take this caller. This is Chris calling in from Mtwapa. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning to you. How are you?
We're well, thank you. Chris, please go ahead and ask your question.
Right. My question is, as per this COVID-19, you've been told, we've got the information that if you feel the signs and maybe you feel like you have the symptoms, and you feel that you have to be tested. And we have some testing areas that people are recommended to go and test. Now, my question is, how do we get there? Which means do we use?
Okay, Chris, so this is the thing. Not everyone can be tested. Practically speaking, we cannot test everyone. Regardless of this, we have testing capability, yes, at the National Influenza Center and Kemri Laboratories, but not everyone can be tested. One, because we do not have enough resources for everyone. We do not have many testing kits for everyone. And two, because not everyone who feels like I am sick will likely have COVID-19. And remember, we said, or rather had said earlier, does testing inform management? And I say management because there's no treatment, there's no cure. If we find out that you have COVID-19, does it inform how we treat you? If it's a no, then there's no point of testing. If it's yes, and this is now to the vulnerable groups, the elderly and people with other conditions, then we need to find out so that we make decisions promptly. For a good majority of people, 97% of them, they will develop symptoms or they'll not develop any symptoms at all. And within 14 days, your immune system will have fought it and you'll be back to normal. So you have to weigh. If going to a hospital is going to help you because you are at risk, then do. If not, stay at home, be in a controlled environment so that we are able to contain. Remember, we are not at a point where we are stopping transmission. We are at a point where we want to delay as much as possible and contain when it comes to that. And this is now where each one of us plays a role. After China had come down, people went back to look at how the numbers were, and they realized actually that when they were actually reporting 400 cases, there were 2,500 more. There are actually 2,500 cases, meaning that you are always behind the virus.
3 times behind, it would seem.
Yes.
Yes, and it's not that you are lying. It's not that you're lying about it. It's just that the process and procedures that we are using to detect it are slower than the actual progression of the virus itself.
Yes.
Yes.
Dr. There's a lot of fear around, especially when we hear cases that, there might be more out there that have not reported or such. And then if somebody who may have been infected is at home, we've also heard from the Ministry of Health directive that there's the number you will call and medical services will come to you, essentially, and then check out the situation at home before they're now able to move you if need be. Do we have any idea in terms of the response time?
At the moment, I'm not able to answer that in terms of the response time, because I haven't really looked at if they've had to go and get somebody from home or, take somebody to hospital, because as it is now, and many people will agree, we are still organizing the healthcare phase. That's why the focus is on you and I to play our part. That's why it's for you and I to stay in that controlled and confined environment. Because even if somebody needs to come, they will know it's only this household that has been at risk, and it's only this household that we need to take care of. And I know there's a lot of worry because people are not sure who have I met and whatnot. And this is, and yesterday I saw, what's it called? WhatsApp message circulating. I think it was from Malaysia, about the contact tracing, where when you have one confirmed case, getting the immediate contacts is easy. Because if today you are asked, who have you met, you are able to pinpoint because they are your everyday people. But if you had gone to the supermarket, you don't know. If you had gone to the bar like people have gone yesterday, you don't know who you've met. So the point of people being told to stay put, not to move around, is because you don't know who that other person is.
Right.
And you not be able to pinpoint and say it was A, B, C, and D. So stay put so that your contacts are able to be traced and we are able to contain within that, so that now you don't have to worry about, I don't know who I met, I went to the supermarket or I went to the barber, I don't know who I met. That one now will be minimized.
Are we trying to dissuade people from gagging these lines, the lines of communication now? And when should we absolutely call medical services or ask to see a doctor? When is it, with all of this, even if there are symptoms, when should people absolutely call for medical help? So
somebody with a difficulty in breathing.
Okay.
That is, whether you have a good immune system or not, that's somebody who should call. The elderly. People, and for some countries it's 60, for some it's 70, but I think for us we can do 60. I don't want to say 50-year-olds are elderly, but from 60. But anyone in that age group should call if they develop any of the symptoms, a cough, a fever, or difficulty in breathing. Somebody with diabetes, hypertension, cancer, any one of these, and they develop the symptoms, should call.
Okay.
Somebody who is fairly healthy and they have just a cough and a fever, they can manage it. They can manage it. And the fever has been shown that paracetamol has actually worked well to control the fever. And paracetamol is just plain paracetamol. I know we have a lot of brands with added things, aspirin, and I don't know, many things. But just the plain paracetamol has been shown to...
Which one is plain paracetamol? How do I know plain paracetamol at a chemist?
If it doesn't have vitamin C added to it,
look,
Panadol is... forget Panadol, that's a trade name, yes. Paracetamol.
So just go to a chemist and ask for paracetamol.
Yes.
That doesn't
not
have,
painkiller, paracetamol.
Just paracetamol.
Just specifically paracetamol, because if you ask for a painkiller, that
they'll give you stuff.
But paracetamol, that's plain. I remember in health facilities, they usually look, to me they look like Patco.
Yes, those white sweets.
Those white sweets, the ones that are in a government facility. And those ones work. And I know many people usually worry about, they want to go, they buy the brand name. But those ones, and they're usually very cheap.
Actually, for 10 shillings, you can get very many.
Yes.
And they work just as effectively
as
the
they
ones which cost you...
No, Eric.
10 shillings would just buy you two of the other ones.
Patco.
Yes, they're not.
Yeah, they're not.
And
10 bob.
But by the
You
way,
go and buy those things.
there's a very important reason why those things are that size.
I think they're even more.
Yes.
Usually,
Okay.
they're more.
Okay. Let's take a short break. Take a look at the weather. This is a Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. We're talking coronavirus, COVID-19, Kenya's preparedness, what you need to know, what you need to do, what the government has done so far, what the government is still doing, what the government ought to do more. This is where the conversation is. 0719-012-600. Ask Dr. Mercy. This is Dr. Mercy Karir. She is Standard Media Group's medical journalist. She's here with us. She's our guest host today. Good morning.
The weather
The rain
with
seems
Spice
to have halted
FM.
in certain parts of the city of Nairobi at 17 degrees, partly cloudy conditions to ensue for the rest of the day. In Nyeri at 17 degrees, thunderstorms expected later with highs of 24. Looking into Nakuru at 17 degrees, mostly cloudy and a chance of rain, highs of 24 and lows of 14. In Eldoret at 14 degrees, it's mostly cloudy and rain coming in the afternoon with highs of 24. In Kisumu at 19 degrees, a chance of rain later as well, highs of 28. And in Mombasa at 28 degrees, mostly cloudy and showers expected later with highs of 32. Malindi at 29 degrees is mostly cloudy. It's going to be a warm day but open up into showers later with highs of 32. Kampala at 21 degrees, it's raining and will be the case for most of the day with highs of 25 and lows of 19. It's 27 degrees in Dar es Salaam and mostly cloudy, opening up into an afternoon of rain with highs of 32 and lows of 25. In Johannesburg at 13 degrees, it's mostly sunny and will be that way through the day with highs of 24 and lows of 13. Wrapping it up in West Africa, in Lagos at 28 degrees, it's clear skies. Cloudy conditions to continue later with highs of 34 and lows of 27.
Chilled Spice.
Everything
More questions coming in on the social media platforms. Spice FM KE on Facebook, at Spice FM KE on Twitter. Spice FM KE is our YouTube channel. We are live streaming on all those three platforms. Ask Dr. Mercy. Many other questions that are coming in, Dr. Mercy. Which one do you see? Which one do you want to answer?
I think the question on what's the treatment, and there have been so many remedies being shared around. I don't know, chloroquine and some other very many regimen. Somebody asking for a vaccine. Somebody else was asking me if they need to get a flu shot. So now, let me start with the flu shot. The flu shot is against influenza. Influenza and coronavirus are two different bugs. So a flu shot, yes, it's good to get a flu shot, but it will not protect you against coronavirus. Coronavirus, as it is, does not have a vaccine, and that's why people have put in money. People are working around the clock trying to look for a vaccine against coronavirus. So the flu shot, yes, will protect you against the flu and not the coronavirus. The other thing is people asking about treatment. And not everything has a treatment. That is the sad reality, and this is one of them. Because I know when, as a doctor, one of the questions that people ask is, okay, so you've told me I have this, what is the treatment? Not everything has a treatment, and coronavirus is one of those things that don't have a treatment. And that's why you're saying the management is symptomatic. The symptoms that one exhibits is what you will be managed for. If it's a fever, you control the fever. If it's a cough, probably a cough suppressant to do, or the garlics and the vitamin C, lemons and whatnot are what can probably help. So these doesn't have treatment, you can only manage. And so the thing is, now people have to learn to do their own triage. Do I call it triage? Like now when you come to hospital, we have somebody who is emergency, you have somebody who's urgent, you have somebody who's non-urgent, and you have that who can wait. So now as a public, I think we have to learn where we fall. Are we an emergency? Are we urgent? Are we can wait? Where are we in that spectrum? So that's one of the things. And the other question is, when should I go to hospital? I think we've touched on that a lot. And the hospital, as we've said, should be reserved to those people who must go to hospital, who absolutely have to go to hospital. I know our outpatient facilities are now packed because people are going to ask and find out, do I have coronavirus?
Yeah, taking themselves there to ask the question.
Yes, and we said if you go to a hospital and you didn't need to go, you may pick somebody who has gone there because they generally have coronavirus, or you may pick some other bag from hospital, and hospital bags are very difficult to treat. So if you do not have to go to hospital, do not go to hospital. Call the 719 Ministry of Health helpline, and many people have, people have their own doctor, my own pediatrician. You can also engage them. They'll be able to guide you and tell you, now you need to go to a hospital.
Yes.
And then going to hospital doesn't mean everyone goes to Kenyatta and Bagathi. In our own vicinities, we have health centers. Let's now start utilizing them. And it's not just in Nairobi, across the country. In our own vicinities, we have all those health centers. And it's important that when you show up in such a place, from your first word, apart from saying your name, should be that I suspect.
Yes, that I might have.
That I might have, because you're not just for your own sake, but remember that
Everybody
doctor,
else's.
that nurse, that clinical officer who's attending to you has a family. If they do not have their own immediate family, they come from a family. And if they are not there to help you tomorrow, or if they are infected for any one reason and they're incapacitated, the next person who seeks their care, who will attend to them? So this is the time to be conscious of everyone around us. So if you fall into that case definition, it's important that when you go to a healthcare facility, you say it, that it's so. And so I know one of the persons that was confirmed showed up to a facility twice. The first time, they should have just said, I have traveled from wherever it is, the first time. Because now there's a critical mass of healthcare workers who will have to go home. And remember, as we said, people will still have heart attacks, people will still get strokes, mothers will still need to deliver, people will need to go for emergency theaters. So if these ones are isolated because they've been infected, who will attend to these other people who are our own family members? So we need to, this is the point
Is it
where it's not
important,
me, but
that
us.
when you're thinking this way and you're thinking, I'm suspecting, is it important, what other measures can I put in place? For example, now in the absence of masks, can I tie a handkerchief around my, to reduce or minimize the spread of the
anything that
of the
stops
droplets?
anything that prevents droplets from moving from you to the next person or to a surface. And remember, we said if it's disposable, the better. Or if you can dispose it, the better. So that you can cover your nose, then you go to a health facility and say, I've been coughing and I've come in contact with somebody who's traveled over the last whatever, or I've been traveling myself. This is why I'm this. So that the first person that meets you, even if it's the watchman or the guard at the hospital gate, knows where to direct you so that you minimize transmission from person to person. So this is the time actually to be conscious of all of us. It is now no longer me, because life has to continue after COVID-19.
Right.
And life cannot continue when we do not have our healthcare personnel who take very long to train. It takes at least 6 years. It takes quite a substantial amount of time to train. So we have to be
We
really
lose
conscious.
one, we are taking ourselves back some 6 years.
Yes.
The issue of masks. There's a scramble for masks.
Like sanitizers.
Yes.
You do not need, I cannot overemphasize this enough. You do not need a mask. These masks are one for the healthcare workers, the healthcare personnel, because they are at risk of coming into contact with somebody who actually has coronavirus. That's one. This mask is for that person who is sick and diagnosed, confirmed to have coronavirus.
Okay.
Because you want to limit the spread from this person to the next person. And remember, these masks are disposable. So it means after some time they dispose. These masks are for those people who are taking care of somebody who is confirmed to have coronavirus, who somebody suspected. Let's say, for example, we've said stay at home. If somebody is taking care of you at home, then they qualify to have a mask because they also need to be protected from getting this. And remember, this mask will not protect you 100%. Even the best has the N95 that we're talking about is just 95% protective. So it is not 100%.
It's not 100%.
It is not 100%. So that's why we are saying we are not stopping the transmission. We are delaying and containing it. So you and unless you say you stop breathing, there's no way of stopping coronavirus. So we are delaying and we are containing that spread of coronavirus. So the masks, I'm seeing there's a lot of craze. You have some shopping malls and some areas where guards have masks. They wear the one mask the whole day. It's even uncomfortable. I don't know. People think it's uncomfortable to wear a mask. And usually by the time you're done with your surgery, you want to throw it away because it's uncomfortable. So if we are having all people wearing masks, then are we even conscious of their health? Masks for me are a no. What has been proven to work and has always asked. Remember, we've always had the campaign of wash your hands for a very long time to prevent diarrheal diseases. We're just going back to the basics. That's why we're saying soap and water. If you do not need sanitizer.
You don't need to make it fancy.
Number one is soap and water.
Soap and water. If you do not have soap and water, the sanitizer is to buy you time to that soap and water.
Soap and water.
Yes.
You must end up at soap and water.
Soap and water. And then the other thing is people are drying their hands with a towel, with a dryer.
Yes. Now those ones.
Yeah, you just dry your hands with a disposable tissue. Yeah. Something that you can dispose.
So towels.
And something that is clean. Towels, no.
No.
And even
the hand dryer?
No. Even not just for the coronavirus. Towels are a no. Because I'll wash my hands. Remember, unless you, the ones like are provided in a hotel, you wipe and then you put it in a bin. Yes, the hot ones. Because those ones are hung somewhere. I'll wash my hands, I'll dry. Ndu will come and wash and dry.
On the same
Somebody
towel,
else will
no
on the
less.
same towel.
Right.
So we've done nothing. So towels are a no.
Healthcare workers were on a go-slow the other day at Mbagathi. And the issues they were raising were we do not have protocols, we have not been trained, we don't know exactly what to do. Has that been addressed now?
It is being addressed now. As I say, we are.
What is happening exactly?
Yes. I'll get back to that. As I say, we are playing catch up to the virus. So healthcare workers started training. Was it yesterday or I think it was either yesterday. Anyway, this week is when they are starting to do active training. And remember, this training.
And this is at Mbagathi or across the country?
Across the country. They will phase it out. And remember, training is not just doing a PowerPoint presentation to tell me about coronavirus. Healthcare workers know. But in case somebody comes and say, I have been coughing, I'm from Italy, what do you do? That is the training we're talking about, because otherwise people will flee. Healthcare workers are like...
they're human beings.
They will flee. Nobody wants to get... So the training is just to make sure you make them confident enough to handle this, to know how to wear those PPEs. I think you've seen people don PPEs, but there's a method to it.
What is PPE?
Personal protective equipment.
The N95s now.
Yes, all that, the goggles, whatever.
The space suits the city likes.
Yes. So there's a procedure to putting them on. There's a procedure to degauning, removing. So you need, these are the things that healthcare workers need to actively be reminded of. I say reminded because at some point during the phase of working in the healthcare space, you will have gone through it. But remember, if you don't do it routinely, then you need a refresher course to see. So these are some of the things that they need to know. And then the other thing is just to assure them that if you need an N95, for example, or gloves, you're not going to run out of it, that all of these things are available. So this is the active training that we are talking about. Second, are the protocols that they are talking about. If somebody comes, what are your management guidelines? Like we have with HIV, with TB and all of this, there's a certain set. This is your first line management, this is your second line. If somebody has A, B, C, and D, there are all those algorithms that needs to be worked out. So hopefully, this we will have either by the end of today
so
or
it should
tomorrow.
be like a 2-day or 3-day training.
I think they've scheduled it for at least 3 days.
A 3-day training.
Yeah.
And is it for everybody, just for specific people who will be stationed at these isolation wards?
It's for everybody. So they will they will phase it. Obviously, there are those people who are the front line, like the people who are at the A&D, the accident and emergency, where people are likely to walk in. So you have to start with those ones. And the people at manning the isolation units. Because now, like in Mbagathi, in Kenyatta, people know where the isolation units are. So you need to equip those ones. Before now, you make sure that everyone in the healthcare space is well equipped,
Yep.
at least in knowing what to do when that situation comes. Because as we've seen in Italy, it reached a point whether you are the head of internal medicine or the head pediatrician, it was all hands on deck. So it means everyone. Probably even somebody like myself should, because if we are called upon, then everyone has to go.
You're part of the reserves.
Yes, has to go.
Has to go.
So it has to be everyone. It has to be everyone.
How about those at the airports? Have they been trained?
So at least in screening, and screening is the temperature and knowing what to do if somebody has a high temperature. And this is what they have been doing. Is if somebody passes through the scanners and they have a high temperature, you pick them. You try and manage that temperature. If in an hour it's not gone down or it's not manageable, then you call for them to be transferred to isolation.
Okay. The question of alcohol, I mean, I'd like to come back to that because, yes, the hand sanitizers and what everybody's using contain alcohol. But people have this conception, is it a misconception, that if that's the case and if you then are talking about a respiratory disease, which this is, a respiratory virus, that then the ingestion of alcohol is going to help in either managing this or preventing this. I mean, it sounds ridiculous that we want to ask this question, but I think it's important because it's being peddled far and wide that it can help.
Yeah.
Can it help?
So let's remember our basic biology. There's a respiratory system. I know it all starts here, but there's the respiratory system and the gastrointestinal system. When you ingest alcohol, where does it go? It goes into your stomach and the rest of the system. It has nothing to do with the respiratory system. So there's no way it's going to help you. I think that's the simplest way I can put it.
Even if you inhale it.
It's not.
Or you pour it into your nose.
It
could help.
You will drown actually in alcohol.
Yeah.
So no, alcohol is a no. Alcohol is it's one of those socially accepted drugs, but in this case, it's not going to help
It's
you
not
against
going to
coronavirus. So it's just the alcohol-based sanitizers. But then again, we've said your primary place is soap and water, and it's any soap. Any soap. It doesn't have to be the fancy soaps.
All right.
Any soap.
With COVID-19, can someone get infected twice?
Oh yeah, I'd seen that question. And as you said, it's a new virus. We don't know yet anything about it, because if people are not getting reinfected, then it means you develop some immunity against it. So we do not know yet. Probably that's something we'll get to know after this
Maybe
phase
you need to explain, if someone develops an immunity against it and you had been infected, does it mean that the virus is completely expelled from your system, or is it just lingering there but it can't do you any harm?
I think immunity would be you've developed antibodies or soldiers against it, such that if it comes back again, for whatever means, then those soldiers in your body are able to fight it off. And so you're not able to get reinfected. But I saw reports, I think it was in Japan or one of those East Asian countries, where somebody actually got infected again. So maybe not. Maybe you can get reinfected. Maybe you do not develop immunity.
Especially now that there's no vaccine, for something like this.
Yeah.
22 minutes to 9 o'clock. This is a situation room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. Let's take a short break, take a look at traffic, and then we come back and continue the conversation. Dr. Mercy Korir, Standard Group's medical journalist, is in the studio. And we have, of course, C.T. Muga, Nduoko, and Eric Latif. Take a look at traffic, and then we come back and have a conversation on the issue that has been raised in today's headlines. Mr. President, Kenyans want more money.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
It's moving slowly in
You're
Westlands,
listening.
right around where Akiwe, not slowly actually, quickly, so I want to go in the reverse, but actually moving very smoothly from Wayakiwe all the way down through Huru Highway, out of the city, in and outbound is very, very smooth today. We really don't have any problems wherever it is that you look. It's amazing, someone says. It's like the mid-80s. Kiambu Road, very smooth all the way through out then to the Thika Super Highway, in and outbound on Thika Road, in and outbound on Mombasa Road. Ngong Road actually has no traffic whatsoever. It is like a ghost town so far. Let's see what it looks like later, but for now, nothing to worry about. If you're trying to get somewhere, you'll get there rather quickly this morning. Spice FM KE, something changes, let us know, or 0719 012 600.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM,
Situation is
Nairobi.
Kenya's biggest conversation. This is the conversation that's going on. Let's now cross over our borders and go to Saudi Arabia and join a Kenyan who's in Saudi Arabia. This is Mohammed Ulia. He's a Saudi Arabian Monetary Authority advisor. Mohammed Ulia is a finance expert. And when we're talking about this is what the headlines in the Standard have been about. Mr. President, Kenyans want more money. Government needs to come up with measures to ensure that, we're cushioning our economy from the rather hard-hitting effects of this coronavirus. And now let's discuss some of that. Some of these proposals that have been put in place is what Mohammed Ulia is joining to talk about. Good morning, Mohammed.
Good morning, Eric. Good morning, everyone. How are you guys?
Good morning.
Well, thank you.
Now, Mohammed, you've seen the headlines, of course, in the Standard. This is a conversation that even you have been raising on social media platforms at Mohammed Ulia. What is it that the government ought to do, and why is it that it's taking so long to do? If you were the finance minister, maybe you'd be there thinking, well, it's not a decision that I can just wake up and make. Why is what is it that the government ought to do so far?
Well, Eric, as you would know, we have a serious problem that's global in nature, and it's an external shock. So it's not something that is unique to Kenya. It is something that everyone else is struggling with. So what the government needs to do is what every other government in the world is basically doing, which is to cushion Kenyans against these external shocks. Basically, of course, all businesses are now struggling. It's very difficult for people to go to work. The SME sector is struggling, mainly hit very hard by this coronavirus, restrictions and the fear in the market. So basically, it's something that the government needs to look at. Now, how does the government look after this issue? Is of course depends on how much money a government has, and I don't think ours has a lot of money to spare.
Now, if you look at some of these measures that have been proposed by the business community, talking about like zero rating VAT, what is it that you ought to do so that you can stay in business and still be able to pay your workers? Because you don't want to lose your workers at this point. You don't want to dismiss your workers at this point. As an employee, you don't want to lose your job at this point. Some of these measures that have been, that the business community is proposing, are they measures that are feasible? Like when you talk about reducing the contribution of our tax to the government?
Well, again, as I said, yes, it's difficult for our government to do anything. We've been running an 8 or so percent, fiscal deficit over the last 6-7 years of Jubilee administration. And when you do that kind of stuff, when you have huge debts to pay, you have no space. It's just government is just like you. When you have good times, you've got to save something for these kind of situations when you have external shock. So we were running an economy whereby any small external shock, whether it's a disease or any other type of shock, we were going to be left basically, swimming naked. The thing is, if you look at the measures other countries are taking, especially even in the country where I am, is they're putting money directly into the SMEs. Now, things like cutting rates at the central bank, it's not going to resolve a disease problem, because if you cut rates at the central bank, if Njoroge does that, then it means you have lower lending rates. Then, who is going to borrow now? Who is going to go and build a factory? Who is going to stimulate an airline's business by actually going to fly? This doesn't work. So the demand side, from central bank side, it doesn't work. So the only thing that works is if Treasury, for example, were to go and invest or put money in SMEs' pockets. Also help the households by letting people not pay their bills, whether it's electricity bills or whether it's school fees or whatever it is. But that can be done by a government that has been running its house in order for the last 6 or 7 years, a government that has a space to do that. We don't have that space. So the only thing that we've been receiving, the only thing the government relies on is taxation. If now it does anything that impacts on that tax collection, then there'll be a hole somewhere else. So I think it's a very difficult situation, and that's why the government has not come out to do anything meaningful.
I think, Mr. Walie, that our banks or our financial institutions could in any way be of assistance to the government in these troubled times that we are in?
Yes, I think what's happening globally and what's happening, especially even where I am now, is the government does something and then lets the banks to also do something. So I think it's a 50-50. It's a partnership. Banks are private institutions. So
I understand that, but where I'm coming from is this: if I look at, say, for instance, the disparity between those who have,
like, of course, it should be done. They're a private business, so yes, they can do.
Mohammed, you seem to be losing. Okay, hold on. Let's hear the question from CT.
Sorry, I can't hear.
Okay, what I'm asking is, if you look at the disparity, the income disparity, the poverty index within this country compared to the wealth index, the disparity is actually glaring, and it's to the point of even being alarming. But on the one hand, you have banks that make monumental profits, and they're making it in a country that we're being told is poor, within a government that we're being told is mismanaging literally every activity that it's at its disposal. It's from this point that I ask, because in the absence of the assistance from one part of the economy that seems to have money, and from people who now face suffering, and yet we have among us people who have the financial means to assist, apart from simply talking about what they can do, what would be a reasonable expectation? What reasonably can banks do to ensure that their clients, their customers, actually have relief in a way that could actually help in such a situation?
Well, I agree with you. Of course, if you look at who's been making money over the last few years in our economy, it's basically the banks and Safaricom. So I have always tweeted this, and I've always said that these are two areas or sectors that have been making money. Everyone else has been struggling in terms of doing business in Kenya. Now, they have banks, and these kind of businesses have a moral obligation to help. They don't have a legal obligation to help. The legal obligation to help is with the government. It's the government that is supposed to look after, its citizens. Having said that, when it comes to the banks, there is a lot they can do. But of course, they are private businesses. They could, for example, countries are doing now is they're allowing citizens to postpone payments of any type. If you're not working, no money is coming into your business. You don't have the capacity to pay your loans. So a 6 months payment holiday is what everyone else is basically looking at. The question though then is, what happens? How do you do that? There's a lot of accounting challenges to do that. You have to restructure those loans. You have to then sit down with the bank. How much, do they restructure for you and just look at, reduce their margin for the new loans that they're going to give to the customers. Of course, there is the issue of waiving certain fees. Everybody's at home. People should be encouraged to do online business. Therefore, online fees, in my view, should all be scrapped by the banks. They should give something back to society. They can also look at setting up funds to help people with the medical issues. They can do a lot of other corporate social responsibility. Measures that would help society. But again, these are moral obligations. If they don't do it, so there's nothing you can do about it. The most, the person whom you have a social contract with is your government. It is the government that needs to do something at this important, critical time.
Okay, well, Mohammed, looking at then legal responsibility that the government then does have, and then against the fact that a majority of the economy is run by the informal sector, who are probably going to suffer the most with something like a lockdown, for example, whereby they're depending on daily wages to either pay loans, daily loans, or to feed on a daily basis. What then would be necessary for a government in this space to do?
Again, I would go back to the issue of capacity. First of all, you have a government that, basically, for all intents and purposes, is broke. So you just basically, you can say, okay, the government should do A, B, C, D. The government has no capacity to do anything for you today. The only thing maybe they can look at is to, ask the power companies and the water companies and those guys who, come for their money at the wrong time always, to stop coming for citizens' money, and everybody should just concentrate on, saving or keeping money for food. Because we don't know how long this thing is going to last. Nobody knows. If it's going to last 6 months, 7 months, 1 year, 2 years, you should keep every shilling that you have, just for food and medicine, to feed yourselves. So I think the only thing the government can come out and say is nobody should come for rates, nobody should come for utility, bills, nobody should charge anybody anything at this juncture. Now, when it comes to loans, when it comes to those who are supposed to be paying for mortgages and everything else, that's fine. The other thing is, of course, is to make sure that the government also pays salaries. The government also should now, they've been paying pending bills, but there is a lot of pending. I think there's a lot of PR about the pending bills things. If every time we hear so-and-so county, so-and-so department, well done, you've paid your pending bills. But if you go and talk to people on the streets, if you look at social media, there are a lot of people who are still crying and saying, look, we've not seen this money. So I don't know, something is happening that reality and what is being said is actually not matching. So it is also very important that at this time, the government pays anybody it's supposed to pay on time, maybe even before time.
Should the government also, bite the bullet as well? One of the ways in which it spends a lot of our money is by paying workers. Should it come up with measures of, let's say, pay cuts for its workers?
Yes, yes, Eric. But if you look at, from someone, I can't remember her name, but someone said a lot of workforce is informal. Now, how many people are on a payroll? 2 million people. So are you going to favor those people who are on payroll and say, we're going to give you an extra X amount of cash, or we're going to cut, tax or something? So if you do something, then you've got to be able to make sure that you do in such a way that a larger part of the society actually benefits from it. We have 50 million and only 2 million people are actually on the payroll. So I think that is it's not something that it's going to work. But again, in terms of transport, people have been told to stay at home. To go into matatus, are there, where are the NYS buses? Where the government has to come out and to be seen to be doing something. Unfortunately, we've got to be very, very truthful with Kenyans. Our government has no capacity financially to help us in any way.
I think that's a very sad statement.
And this is something that
this government has no capacity to help us.
For so many years. We've been telling the government, we've been talking about it. When you don't manage the economy well, when you go into all these huge debts, any slight shock, economic shock, is going to impact on us. And by the way, this country, for example, the number one income earner, a foreign exchange earner, was remittances. Now, Kenyans in the diaspora are not going to work also. So if you look at people who have been sending, they're not going to be sending a lot of the money that they were sending. So that's another problem that we're going to face.
Okay, so you said a sad statement about the government not being able to help us at this point, or government cannot help, but we are here where now there's a lockdown, people are not able to work, people may not have money, a lot of cuts here and there. And we've seen other countries like Canada, we've seen the UK, Japan, Italy, Germany. Countries are trying to figure out, what do we do to keep people afloat? Yes, we don't have money, or we don't have the capacity to, but we have to survive this period. So what do you advise, or what do you think the government can do, either to keep money in our pockets or food in our stomachs, something that will help us pull through this, because we have to? And second, when this pandemic is over, how do we come out of it having picked lessons, hopefully, so that now we can have a more resilient economy?
Well, I think it's easier said than done, but there's some things. Of course, government has to do something. Governments will not come out and say we don't have money. Sorry, I think they need to do a supplementary budget. They need to, depending on how long this thing goes on, they need to rechannel some of the money that was, allocated to projects and to certain things. They have to stop certain projects. They have to redirect money from development into the current expenditure to support people. They have to do something. They have to basically rebudget. You can't go on talking about the big four. You can't go on talking about, mega projects when, the citizens are suffering. So, of course, out in the next few weeks, if this thing goes on, then the government and Treasury basically says we have to redirect a lot of money that was going elsewhere into resolving this crisis. And, in terms of going forward, I don't know if we will be learning any lessons, because we're not do that. I think if this thing stops tomorrow, it will be business as usual. We'll go back to rallies, we'll go back to politics, we'll go back to 20.
It will be the issue of BBI again.
Nonsense.
Mohammed Elia, thank you very much for speaking to us. I think we're getting into an issue with our connection, or we are losing you intermittently. We want to thank you very much for speaking to us this morning. Wish you all the best in Riyadh. I see you're working from home, aren't you?
Yes, I'm working from home, and normally when you're working from home, you wake up at 12, so you woke me up early at 8 o'clock. Thank you very much for that, Eric.
Thank you very much for waking up early. Now you have some work to do, some homeschooling to do, and the rest of the household chores. I'm sure the house manager, the boss, will tell you what she wants you to do. Asante sana and have a good day. Mohamed Olie is a chief advisor to the Saudi Arabian Monetary Authority. He's Kenyan. He has been here. He was born here, studied here, also worked here. Now he's working in Saudi Arabia. We'll be speaking to him, of course, when he comes into the country. We'll invite him into the studio so we can talk about this. He's very, very, very particular on this particular issue when he says this government does not have the capacity to help you. Manage your expectations.
But what I found interesting is that they have spoken about this in the past, and they have pointed out these things in the past, and clearly they were ignored.
Yes.
Somebody did not listen.
As we come to the top of the hour, CT, today's proverb.
You do not climb a pepper tree, but rather you go around it.
You do not climb a pepper tree, but rather you go around it.
Yes.
That is today's proverb. The conversation continues on our social media platforms, Spice FM KE on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and also on Instagram, Spice FM KE. Dr. Mercy Korir is our guest host today. So any questions that you have to Dr. Mercy Korir regarding coronavirus, the spread, the containment, the government efforts, what you ought to do, what you ought to know, shoot them. 0719 012 600. That's 0719 012 600. Good morning. It's 9 o'clock.
94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi. Traffic.
All right, looking at how things may have changed over time. Just a few minutes down through Mombasa Road, nothing really. Looking at many ghost streets, as it were, today, nothing major going on. Unless you see something out of the ordinary, really, at this point, I got nothing. Everything is smooth, flowing absolutely beautifully today. It is the one for the books in terms of history. Spice FM KE is if you see something out of the ordinary that we should share about. Remember, in some parts of the city, it's still a bit wet, so you want to be careful. But apart from that, it's good stuff concerning traffic. 0719 012 600 is the number to call should you see anything that we ought to know about. Don't hesitate to let us know.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Here, medical journalist at KTN News. We are in the Situation Room, and the situation we are discussing is COVID-19, the coronavirus pandemic that is not just a Kenyan problem, but it's an international problem. Everyone is worried. Everyone has many questions. We've tried to answer most of your questions since 6 a.m., but we'll recap and give you a brief of what the highlights or the big questions have been. If you have any more questions, you can reach us on 0719 012600, 0719 012600. And just a recap of the main questions that people have been asking is, when do I go to hospital? And my answer has been, just relax. Stay at home if you do not meet the case criteria. And the case criteria is if you have a cough, if you have fever, or if you have difficulty in breathing, and a recent history of travel to any of the areas that have reported coronavirus, and that does not include Rongai. I've seen somebody's asking me about if I've traveled from Nairobi to Rongai, am I at risk? It's any of these international travels of the areas which have reported coronavirus, or if you have been attending to somebody who has been confirmed to have coronavirus or the COVID-19, or if you have come into close contact with any of those people, then you know you're at high risk, and not everyone can be tested. That's the other thing we have been answering. Remember, our hospitals are still attending to people who have your daily issues. It could be a heart attack, it could be a stroke, it could be women delivering. So if you're not critically ill, if you do not have difficulty in breathing, this is an issue that can be managed at home. You can manage fever, you can rest, hydrate, stay well at home, stay confined, because remember, we are trying to delay transmission of the virus and contain the virus when it is transmitted. So not everyone should go to hospital. If in doubt, 719 is the number by the Ministry of Health. It is manned by medics, and they'll be able to advise you whether to go to hospital or not. Now, the other question that has come up and we've not addressed is the issue of eating habits. And I know this virus is suspected to have started from a Chinese wet market.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, Chinese, their cuisine is an array of anything and everything.
They have an eclectic.
Yes.
The exotic and the common.
Yes. These are some of the things that we in Africa are not used to. So in terms of our food, eat healthy. Your regular diet. You don't need to now start looking for managu if it wasn't in your regular diet. You don't need to start wondering where to get arrowroots if it was not in your regular diet. So you don't need to do anything dramatic to your diet. Just eat healthy.
And the dawa, lemon ginger.
Yes, actually, I used to not believe in the dawa until it worked for me, and I had a conversation with a nutritionist. Actually, the ginger, the lemon, the vitamin C in lemon actually boost somebody's immunity. I don't know whether to say turmeric. I call it okay. Thank you. That one is also good. And then with the lemon, it's not you cut slices of lemon.
In case people don't know, what you know as curry powder, turmeric. Carry on.
Yeah. But the one that they advise is the natural.
The tuber.
Yes. And for the lemon, don't slice up the lemon and immerse in bottles like I see people carrying around. It's actually squeeze the lemon juice into the water. That's how you get your vitamin C.
You have overturned an entire population of habits.
But
because
that is the science.
All right. While we are on slices of lemon, what about cucumber?
Lemon, cucumber, chop into a bottle of water and walk around.
Walk around with
Have everything else in your bag.
That thing doesn't work if you don't walk around with it, yes.
You must walk around with it for it to be.
And people must see it.
It has to be a transparent bottle where everyone sees it.
Of course.
No. Please just
you've got to squeeze the lemon.
Squeeze the lemon juice into your water, just that. But if you're making dawa, just a bit of honey with your ginger, and it has to be the natural, not the... You can use the spices, but the natural ones work best, and have them. The cucumbers, just eat them. Don't cut them up and throw them into water. Just eat your cucumbers. You don't need to exaggerate some of these things. Actually, they usually say truth is stranger than fiction. Just do kawaida.
Just be normal.
Just be normal.
Be simple.
Be simple. Don't exaggerate anything. And you will have boosted your immunity. Now, somebody yesterday had asked me about flowers, and I was coincidentally in hospital. And we haven't actually thought about it. Can we now send flowers if you're going to see somebody in hospital, or somebody wants to send somebody else flowers for whatever reason? Is it
safe?
Is it safe? So I don't have a direct answer, but if they're not contaminated, why not? But if you don't have to send the flowers, don't. But then we know that's a whole other sector again. If you say don't do flowers,
industry, right.
So it's a matter of weighing. But if they're hygienically done and made into those very nice and beautiful bouquets, I think you can send. So on the issue of flowers, I don't have a direct answer to it. One last one. Somebody on Twitter is saying if those people made it into the country and were not picked until it was 7 days later, does it mean our screening at the ports of entry is faulty? And it's not that the screening is not working. Remember, you can come in and you start exhibiting symptoms by day 5 or day 6. So at the point of coming in, you could be well. You yourself, you may not even know that you have contracted the virus. And then within that 14-day incubation period, you can develop anything within that time. That's why the isolation or the self-quarantine is 14 days, so that if within those 14 days there are no symptoms, then it means you haven't contracted. So it's not that our screening is not picking it up, but if at the time you're coming in, you haven't contracted, then you'll not show symptoms. Remember, 2 out of the 7 of our confirmed cases got it on the plane to Nairobi.
Yep.
So by the time they are landing at JKI within that 8-hour flight, they're not going to have exhibited any symptoms.
Yeah.
So it's not that screening is not working, but it's possible to not get it because somebody has not yet developed symptoms.
But during that time, is it possible that they've passed it on? From the moment they left JKIA into the taxi, into going home and hugging, oh, thank God you've come before the airports were locked down.
So now this virus, as we have kept saying, is new. We're still learning a lot about it. So the information so far from the countries that have gone ahead of us, if I may call it that, is that those that are asymptomatic, those that do not have symptoms at the moment, are unlikely to pass it on. Because remember, you have to have the droplets. So if you do not have anything to cough out or anything to sneeze or whatever, then you're likely not to have a lot of particles within your respiratory system to spread. So unlikely, but we don't know yet. Yeah.
0719-012-600. Call in and ask Dr. Masi any question, or you can even post a comment on whatever you'd like to know, what you're thinking about our preparedness on this. Dr. Simon Kigondu is the Secretary General of the Kenya Medical Association. Once I've opened up the phone lines, he's just called in directly. Dr. Simon Kigondu, good morning.
Once I've opened up the phone lines, he's just called in directly.
Daktari, so switch off your radio and then we can put you on air. Dr. Simon Kigondu, Secretary General of, as he prepares to do that?
As he prepares to do that, at Maleche Alan had asked, for how long should one be held in isolation, and are there any guidelines from the Ministry of Health that explains what happens to a person during isolation? So before I could answer that, Dr. Oma Oluga, the Secretary General KMPDU, explained that isolation is for 14 days. That's why quarantine is for 14 days. And isolation in this case should be even at home. The self-quarantine, self-isolation at home, not just in the facility. And he says it can be extended if exposure still exists, or shortened if the test come out as negative.
All right. Dr. Kigondu is on the line. Good morning, Dr. Simon.
Good morning, Latif.
How are you doing?
I'm doing.
Ndu is fine. Everybody is fine. Ask your question or comment to Daktari.
Thank you very much for bringing Masi. The first thing I must say is that Masi is a member of Kenya Medical Association.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah. You had to throw that in there.
The Kenya Medical Association is part of the ministerial task force that is looking into the coronavirus. And one of the issues they raised was the caliber of people who are discussing coronavirus, giving advice to Kenyans in the media. And it is good that you actually check the caliber of people, and we thank you for bringing Dr. Masi Korir on air.
Thank you, Daktari.
And finally,
yes,
hello?
Finally, go ahead.
Finally, what I was saying, in terms of training of doctors, you saw that in Kakamega when some people came in, the health workers ran away. The reason for that is because they did not know what to do. So what we have done we have decided to record the trainings. We have, as Kenya Medical Association, we have recorded the trainings, and we are going to put them online for all health workers to see. And then we send the trainer of trainers across our divisions to come and now highlight the points after the people have read the material. Ignorance, lack of not knowing what to do is what is causing health workers to panic. You saw the issue of Mbagathi yesterday, where the interns were not sure, but a training has actually been taken to them, and now they are more comfortable. And personal protective equipment has actually been provided by the hospital to them, and they're back to work. So training and limitation of movement via e-training is key.
Thank you very much, Dr. and congratulations. You've taken up, conversation and creating of awareness very well.
He's done a wonderful thing. And even that they have actually recorded it and ensured that it's something that can be referred to. But there's a little problem here. Kellen, the Kenya Legal and Ethical Issues Network, conducted a research among health workers a couple of years ago to determine which sources or which avenues which were most sought after for information. Now, it was discovered that all these lovely documents that are put together by the Ministry of Health and other agencies to inform them, they will exist as booklets and they'll gather dust somewhere. If there's a refresher, they may look at them for that purpose, but it's not what informs them on a daily basis. So if you want to inform health workers, please start by understanding these are just people who happen to be health workers, and that their sources of information are more or less similar to the rest of the country. And among the people they listen to the most, or the sources, are oddly enough religious leaders. They really listen to religious leaders. What religious leaders tell them, they tend to take it, because they choose where they go for this religious fulfillment. Then they listen to their radios. They actually take radios fairly seriously. TV doesn't come right at the first, it comes around fourth if you look at the list. But what again was alarming about this, things like government edicts or government statements, they are listened to and they may be understood and taken in for a duration of a day or two. A week is really pushing it. Beyond that, if it doesn't impact on what they do on a daily basis, it has no effect.
It has no effect whatsoever.
But this particular one has an effect, being a training. So you are told to look at the material, and the next day a trainer of trainers comes and goes to clarify what the personal protective equipment, how it should be worn, and things like that. So this is not for general learning. It's actually during a pandemic where you actually need training.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ari. Let me now
You're
go
welcome,
to another call. Have a good day. Dr. Masi, umesalimiwa sana na daktari. John in Nyandarua, good morning.
Yes, morning. How are you guys?
Good morning.
Yeah, very fine. Yes. Now I wanted to ask Daktari, why are they not asking the health officials, the ground, health officials who supervise hotels and other places, to perform their jobs diligently? Because around in Nyandarua, the hotels are very dirty. These people don't even have equipment to pick mandazis from the counter. They pick them with their hands. When it comes to washing their dishes, they don't have running water. They wash the dishes from a basin, which makes it very risky to spread this disease. So in my opinion, the health officials on the ground are not performing their duties diligently. So I think an emphasis should be put on guys.
Thank you very much, John. I think he's talking about even the public health officers in the counties and the visits that they make to the places, inspections.
I think this to me sounds like what I'll call a pre-existing problem. Yes, it's not. It has not come up. It's not new, because if people have been used to picking mandazis with their hands, they will continue it. It's just that now they have to relearn to do hygiene, and this is not something. Okay, the public health officials need to do something about it, but even from the customers and the management of those facilities, why are they allowing such habits to continue? So for me, it's just a problem probably that people are realizing and picking out now. That now our ears are our radar is heightened on cleanliness and everything. Is now you realize, by the way, these guys have been using their hands, or they don't have running water. But you realize they probably have had that issue for a very long time. Yeah. So probably for me, this is the time to correct those historical injustices that have been happening to people.
When we come out of a short break, we are going to also discuss, now that this issue has come up, there's a lot of feeling when I hear people talking that this coronavirus, and we talk about basic hygiene, people are mixing it up with cholera. Cholera, hygiene, cleanliness, what are we eating? How has it been prepared? Is it suitable for our consumption? Is it going to give us coronavirus? Let's talk about that. Let's debunk that myth as well. 19 minutes after 9, this is a Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. Ask Dr. Mercy, 0719 012 600. We take a look at weather and the conversation continues.
Classic soul,
Mostly cloudy conditions in
R&B,
Nairobi at
smooth
18
jazz.
degrees, highs of 25 and lows of 16 today. In Nyeri at 18 is partly cloudy, thunderstorms expected in the afternoon with highs of 24 and lows of 16. It's 18 degrees in Nakuru and mostly cloudy, showers in the afternoon with highs of 24 and lows of 14. Taking a look into Eldoret at 17 degrees, showers expected later with highs of 24 and lows of 13. It's 22 degrees in Kisumu and there will be a chance of rain later with highs of 28 and lows of 20. It's light showers already in Mombasa at 29 degrees. It's going to continue through most of the day with highs of 32 and lows of 26. Mostly cloudy in Malindi, probably giving way to rain with highs of 32 and lows of 22. In Kampala, it's raining already at 21 degrees through the day, highs of 24 and lows of 19. It's mostly cloudy in Tanzania, Dar es Salaam specifically, at 31 degrees the high, with rain showers expected in the afternoon, lows of 25. In Johannesburg at 17 degrees, it's a clear day, sunny conditions all through with highs of 24 and lows of 14. And finally in Lagos at 28 degrees, it's partly cloudy through the day, highs of 34 and lows of 27.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.
Kenya's biggest conversation continues with Dr. Mercy Career asking questions this morning around COVID-19 and what's going on in the country. One big one, we had leaders asking yesterday, and we've had it also coming out from the mouths of many, that the identity of patients who have been infected and are currently in hospital or otherwise should be made known to the public. From a medical point of view, is this necessary?
My own personal opinion is that it is not necessary. Reason being, once these people have been identified, they are identifying their contacts who have consequently are sought out? As in, they are traced.
Yes.
Like, so if you are one of them, then who have you contacted or who have you met in the recent past? So the three of us will be in that group. Then I'll be asked, who have I met? So at the end of it, everyone who needs to know who patient 0, patient 1 is, will be informed. So for the rest of the public, like if you know it's Dr. Mercy Career who's patient 0, and then?
How does it help?
Yeah. But those who are immediate contacts will be informed, and they have been informed. They have been traced, they have been tested, some have been cleared, one hasn't. So for me, it is unnecessary, because it's just probably just to know for the sake of knowing. Like, even if we shared a plane, if I know it was so and so who was in that plane, and I do not know the seat where they were, how does that information help me? So in my opinion, it's unnecessary. If you are in the vicinity of that person in the plane, you will be contacted, you will be informed. And then from there, the tracing continues. That's why there's a focus on contact tracing, and it has been happening. And even part of the healthcare workers who will be brought on board moving forward to just do disease surveillance and those contact tracing. So for me, it's not necessary at this point. And I see there was somebody else who's asking the same question that we've been asking. Let me ask it verbatim. That is there a reason that the government of Kenya is still advising the public against gatherings rather than stating explicitly that these gatherings are banned? Pubs are still open and full. What is that?
Was that?
What is that?
So
retweet.
Yeah. So you see, it's the question we are asking. If we want to contain and delay this thing, we have to take some bold decisions.
You have to, but think, those who've taken those bold decisions have had to take other bold decisions. Like, what do you do with these people who you've essentially quarantined? Because if you're on lockdown, that's what you've done. You've told everybody stay
home.
So what do you do with them?
Put food in their stomachs or money in their pockets.
Now that is something that the government has to do some seriously hard thinking about, because it's something that they're clearly not prepared.
Does it have food to distribute? So you have to think about that.
All those things that you're going to think about. All. Is it money? Is it food? Is it water? Is it?
So who's going to do this? So even if we say let's deploy the NYS, and because the NYS are here to do that, come around with
give them
baskets
PPEs.
The social contract is with the government.
It is.
Yes.
So if you have to think, where are they getting the food from? So you first of all have to go to the market and mop up the food.
I think the question should be who
have
needs
a warehouse,
food?
central warehousing.
No,
who needs food?
Who needs? Okay,
the
everyone
areas
needs food.
of greatest urgency.
Yes.
Where is it, and where do you start?
You start there,
and then the logistics. How do you go about it?
So, and unfortunately, that is not. The virus is already 7 days ahead of us, so we don't have the luxury of time.
Staying 7 days ahead of us. Yes.
So we do not have the luxury of time. So
it's not an easy decision for the government.
No, it isn't easy.
It isn't.
But it's
and
necessary.
Believe me, everything they've been doing up until now has certainly not made it easy for them. In fact, it has incapacitated them.
A lot of things that are necessary to do are not easy. And they have to go through understanding that it is a difficult process, but it is at some point to think about it and then to follow it up with action is something that would need to be done.
The silver lining with COVID-19 is that all those things that the government may never have considered doing, they're now going to have to do.
And I remember what an ex-Iraqi said yesterday, and he said, we would look forward to a time where these are lessons, and he almost silently, secretly want to say, thank you for this opportunity, because what it does is that it opens up a landscape for you to say, wow, there are certain things that we can actually do as a nation, as a government, as leadership, to make sure that we are on the right path. So an opportunity, something like this, then presents a glowing opportunity for you to say, actually, there's certain things that we've not been doing right. Or even if you had cognizance of the fact that we're going in the wrong direction, to now be able to reset and reboot.
It also gives us an opportunity as voters
to rethink our choices.
To assess our government and appraise their government. And know, all right, so this is a government that's capable of this and the other, and it's incapable of this and the other. Going back to the phone lines, Austin is calling in from Umoja. Good morning, Austin.
Morning, Situation Room. How are you guys doing?
Good morning.
Fantastic conversation so far. But anyway, my question is to the doctor, Mercy. Everyone says, and we've heard from the government that there are 7 people confirmed cases of the coronavirus in Kenya. But, my question is, as a doctor, has she personally seen these people who have been infected? Or has she, in her circles as a doctor, has she heard of her friends who have actually seen these patients? Because, the worry is also that, the government is probably making this up so that, 1 billion from the WHO. Has she seen these patients?
Thank you, Austin. I think this, I don't know why I didn't list. This is, I think, one of the commonest questions that is coming around. That is the government really telling us the truth, or is it a hoax? So Austin and anyone else who's wondering, do we have 7 people or not, is we actually do. We have 7 people. We have medics who are on isolation because they have attended to them. So this thing is true. If anyone was thinking that the government is making up an issue because of money, it is not. This thing is here. It has been here, and as we've said, it's been 7 days ahead of us.
Okay.
Now, the thing...
You're a journalist, so not just the words that it's true. Again, one, who has seen them?
I cannot,
who have you talked to?
I cannot disclose my sources.
Yeah, don't disclose your sources, but tell us who have you talked to somebody who has seen them?
That's what I'm saying.
Or have you talked to the patients themselves?
That's what I've said. There are medics in isolation because they were direct contact, and I will leave it at that. So I can assure you that we actually do have. And remember, these lab tests are done and confirmed by people
in Kenya.
In Kenya. So
but within Nairobi, to be specific.
Yes. So it is actually there.
So you have very many sources of information. You've got the people in the lab who have seen these samples, who have seen the samples test positive. You've got the workers who are caring for these patients, who have seen them. You've got the family members of people who have been admitted.
Yes.
You
have neighbors.
You have neighbors who know so and so exhibited this and they went to hospital.
Yeah.
So there's
there are multiple sources,
that can corroborate
confirmed.
this.
But the thing I must add is, and what I've been telling Kenyans, the numbers will go up. don't be shocked if the CS calls a press conference today and says, now we have 10, we have added 3 more, we have 10.
7 times 3, 21.
The numbers will go up. Expect the numbers to go up because, as you said, the virus is 7 days ahead of us. These people have been interacting with other people. So the numbers are expected to go up. Now, the thing that we've been saying is, how are these numbers going up? If it is a flat line curve where it is gradual, pole too,
safe.
We are safe. We can handle. But if today Mutahi comes and says now we are from 7 to 100, there's a problem. But as long as we are moving gradually, we are okay. That is why, and I think the question of what is that pubs and all these other places are open, churches are being urged not to hold gatherings. That is now where the risk is, the place where the spike will come. Because as long as people are still interacting like if nothing is happening, then therein lies our problem.
Let's take this one question again from Nyeri in Nairobi. Good morning, Nyeri.
Good morning. How are you guys?
Morning.
Good morning.
Now, there was this tweet that was making round yesterday of a lady who was giving her day-on-day experience with corona. Like, she just broke down the symptoms as, like, I think up to day 14 thereabouts. And among the symptoms she mentioned were vomiting and nausea and diarrhea. I think she got diarrhea on, like, the second day. And initially, the symptoms that you had been given were for the normal respiratory, so your throat, your chest, and whatnot. So I don't know whether you guys had covered the symptoms initially, but just to confirm, what are the standard symptoms? As in, like for her, in the case, at some point we're making fun of people who are buying tissue because they're like, this is a respiratory condition, so you don't need like the 50,000 tissues in your house. But are there symptoms over and above, or like cases such as vomiting and diarrhea, are those extreme cases as well? So just a clarification of the symptoms on that end.
Okay, thank you, Nyawera. I think I'll answer this as a doctor. When somebody comes to a hospital, they probably do not just have one thing. They may have a myriad of all other things that may manifest differently. That is not to say that maybe one of the symptoms later when it's bad is diarrhea and vomiting. So every person is different. Every person reacts differently. So here we are going with what majority have shown. And it's a respiratory condition with cough, fever, and difficulty in breathing as like the cardinal symptoms. So now the feeling tired, the fatigue and malaise, all of those other things are there. But what we are insisting on are the cardinal ones, because those, for anyone who would have contracted this, they'll have one of those 3 symptoms. That is not to say the other ones will not be there. So anyone, and I've seen somebody else was saying they've been feeling bad, they had diarrhea, they've just directly messaged me. So it's unlikely. It could be something else that needs to be attended to, but it doesn't mean now that in this season, any small thing that you feel could be coronavirus, because now we're in that season of it. I remember usually say if you Google and you Google those symptoms, you will find a disease for it, and you will think you have it.
Oh, yes.
So it is just best to stick with what has been the cardinal for this coronavirus. You may have something else which may need medical attention for. So go separately for that to be attended to.
Let's take a look at traffic, and then, is there any traffic?
Oh, no, we're probably just going to be looking at the roads.
You will tell us how the roads look like, which roads you can go and sit on, and do whatever you'd like to do. 25 minutes to 10 o'clock. Good morning.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM. Spice up your life.
Right, so Eric Latif suggests that you might want to have a picnic in the streets. This would be the day to do it if you can get the relevant
alone
okays
by
yourself from the now Nairobi, what are we calling them? A metropolitan service. So if you get that okay, you can do that because the streets are empty and we don't have any traffic in any way, shape or form whatsoever. I don't know how many more adjectives I can use, but it's easy streets in Nairobi today. Unless something out of the ordinary happens, we'd like you to let us know. Of course, Spice of MKE on Twitter, 0719 012 600.
Spice and everything nice, everything nice.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Eric Latif, Chrysanthus Theodore. Okay, I'm just kidding.
We have a new host.
We have a new host.
And our guest host today and in days to come as well is Dr. Mercy Korir, expert on these matters of coronavirus. 0719 012 600. Ask Dr. Mercy. Hello, Alan.
Good morning.
How you doing, old chap?
I'm fine, old chap. I think where the rubber is going to meet the road is Chapa. Hey, we saw these bankers going to State House, making promises. But if you look at what they're saying, nothing substantial. Now, if you see what hello?
Yep. Go ahead.
Hello.
Go ahead.
If you see what other governments have done, you know, the British have done a fiscal stimulus equivalent to 16% of GDP. Everybody's throwing money at the problem. I think sooner or later, and if the situation gets worse, the government will have to make some very serious announcement about a fiscal stimulus. And I think in that fiscal stimulus must be a cash transfer program. Conditional cash transfers, Chapa just given to guys, because if you're going to quarantine them, you must give them some Chapa. Yesterday, I said we were not capable of sorting it out, but I've since seen people coming with very interesting proposals. I think the mobile phone is going to be very important in implementing this cash transfer program. Safaricom is doing something in Mukuru Kwanjenga about how you can locate people who are poor and all that. I think my prediction that if things get worse, we are going to see the government having to I mean, people say they don't have the money, but everybody is printing money. I mean, the Brits, the Americans, everybody is doing quantitative easing. So I think in the coming weeks, we must see some serious response from Mr. Ukuri Yatani. That's my piece, my guy.
Thank you very much, Alan, and have a good day. But also remember, Mohamed Ali has just told us this government is broke. This government has been operating on a deficit.
To help you.
I actually feel the government doesn't have the will. It's this capacity. Remember, we pay our debts. The theory was that we were accumulating these debts because we were putting them into projects that would help reinvigorate our economy. We all know that didn't happen. But that we are paying debts tells you that there is money that can be garnered together to pay for it. That we are paying civil servants and paying, it means we have money. If we didn't have money to pay our debts, we didn't have money to pay civil servants, I would say we don't have money.
Are we waiting for a donor, fund, a grant, something?
No donor is going to
You know, now we've entered into the realm of conspiracy thinking because, yes, it's the same thinking that lends itself to this view that people seem to want to question and ask, did the government create a situation so that we could get funding for coronavirus? All right? Yes. Now, if we take that train of thought, then we would argue that the government is playing this game of helplessness so that people can come to their aid. But the help that we're getting right now may be in suspending certain payments, ensuring that we probably have a longer period to pay. That is easily understood. But the money is now focused on this coronavirus.
On managing the pandemic.
That is where it's focused. Now, the other issues, what is difficult in simply stopping all these huge projects that we have lined up to finance? Stop.
Even without COVID,
Just stop.
some of them should have been stopped
Just
anyway.
stop.
And I think it's very clear to Mwananchi now that the big fancy development projects are nothing if the people are not empowered. If there are no people, you'll just have your SGRs, major highways, with no one to use them.
With no one to use
So I think
them.
it's time that we realize that we are more important
than the big projects.
Than the big projects.
Yes.
That thing that Walia mentioned, talking to Kenya Power and immediately saying, right, so continue giving power, but don't bill.
Don't bill.
Who else? Water service companies. Water is ours anyway. The issue that we pay so that we can maintain the system. Just continue giving water to the people. Don't bill. But those are only 2 bills. What other bill is it that we pay that?
It's called tax.
Tax. Every time you fuel.
Every time you get on the road with
Every
your
time you
vehicle,
buy
you're paying a
anything.
tax.
And now that tax is what we are saying. If you deny the government some revenue, then it has no money to distribute as well.
But
No, they do. For once, let them borrow money to actually sort out this matter. We know what it is that we consume. We know how much they collect in taxes. Borrow so that you can fill that gap. So we know this one is fulfilling this gap.
And unfortunately, the
Yes.
taxes
Or
that
you
have been
borrow to give
previously,
us.
Yes,
the taxes
yes,
that have been
yes,
previously,
yes.
the
As
taxes
you
that
said,
have been
money in our
previously
pockets,
collected,
food in our stomachs.
it doesn't translate to something that you can see and say, aha, this is exactly where my taxes went to. It's a direct 1-2 to see that I know this is where it went. And this is an opportunity to say, you're borrowing money, this is where it is going. This
People's
is what it is
pockets.
fueling. This is what it is
Direct
funding.
cash transfer.
Yes,
Money in, money
remember
out.
the limits. Our limits for borrowing were increased, some ridiculous trillion.
So you might as well use it for
Yes.
something that's going to
So
benefit the
if we
people
have
of the
this
country.
problem now, by
Yeah.
all means, borrow.
We'll be okay with it.
Yeah, we've been paying anyway for things we can't see, for things imaginary, for things
for
not
something
seen,
that is tangible
things
and
that
seen,
require
that
the realm of faith to be
Tupatie
operational.
kakitu-
That haven't
tupatie
changed
kakitu
lives.
tukule. Anthony is calling from Mombasa. Good morning, Anthony.
Morning, how are you?
We're fine, thank you.
I'm a little bit concerned, because the way the government is really handling this thing. I was in Nairobi the other day. I think it was on Tuesday, Wednesday. And what I saw really got me worried. The issue of closing down schools, the boarding schools, was a very wrong idea. A very, very wrong idea. Because what I saw, these students converging in Nairobi, several bus terminals, traveling all over the country. If just one student got it, then right now it's all over the country. I thought the best thing would have been containing the students in their boarding schools. They are well contained there. No interaction with outside. The teachers who stay outside, stay outside. Those who stay in the school, stay in the school. That would have been a better idea. So such a thing from the government, it really worries me.
That was it was a difficult decision to actually arrive at, because one, when you close day schools and the curriculum is the same, what happens to boarding schools? That was one. Two,
What do you mean what happens?
if you close day schools and you leave boarding schools, does it mean the ones in boarding schools continue learning? What happens?
Not necessarily.
What happens? So that was
All
was the
students now, as I understand it, are learning. The KICD has come up with a program and all those things.
and now it's uniform because everyone is at home. Let me put for you the questions that were there.
Yep.
That you've closed day schools and everyone else. If boarding schools continue, do they continue with the curriculum? What happens? Two, the people in boarding schools will still interact with people outside. Yeah. Not just the teachers, but there's a lot of support staff within that environment.
Yeah.
So have you really safeguarded these ones? And then when the situation gets really bad, how do they move?
If things have been shut down.
Yeah, if things have, now we are worst case scenario, what happens to these students? Are you able to sustain them for an indefinite period of time? So after deliberations and weighing, then it was like, it's better you take this risk, let them go home. At least whatever happens, you can contain in that family unit. So it was a really dicey, difficult decision to arrive at. But in my opinion, it was the best, because even if they go home, even if somebody falls sick at home, you can contain it in that small
So let
family
them get
unit.
home and then you lock down.
Yeah.
Probably that's what the government is waiting for.
Yeah.
Today, Friday is the final day for universities and colleges to close. So everybody gets home and then
People should stop moving from Nairobi to
from
the
that
village.
point on.
And from point A to point B.
Actually,
Just stay put.
you see, that's where the problem comes, is lack of clarity. You can actually, once you have a lockdown, you state categorically, this is how you will do things.
Yes.
Shops will be open from this time to this time, when there's 24 hours. This is what you will do. Households will do this. When you lay it out, you have given people clarity.
And there's a
Yes,
plan.
and they don't have extra questions beyond that.
Yes.
And grey areas.
And
Yeah.
when something else happens, we will inform you. But for now, this is what's going to happen. The Ministry of Education has already taken steps to ensuring that they're educating students through radio. All right? Now, children who are on the GC system there's online learning.
Yeah.
Many people don't know this, but radio learning has been there for the longest time.
It has.
Yeah. We
Yes.
grew up on radio.
Yes, exactly. So it's just a question of expanding it. What COVID-19 is doing, it's making us open our eyes to focusing on things that are practical and things that can be done to actually ensure that these things that we always talk, debate about actually get done. So that you actually, just because there's a lockdown, certain things don't actually stop.
Life has to continue.
Actually, life is far, far more important than many of these other things that we're talking about. So if any effort is being made and it isn't geared towards ensuring that life is maintained and that life is safe, every other effort is not that useful. Not really.
I think everyone now is actually looking at survival. Because if you look at it, everyone is thinking, okay, if there's a lockdown, what do I need to stay? What foods can I keep?
Yep.
Do I have water? Everyone is just going back to
Even
survival.
even if you have
Primal.
3 months supply of food and there is a lockdown, you see, you will buy food based on what you normally consume.
Yes. Yep.
If there's a lockdown, you'll be consuming more.
Unless you decide that there's a lockdown and I don't have access to replenish this, so I'm going to adjust as well.
Precisely. Your whole thing, everything has to change here.
You have to think different.
Yes.
What about explaining why is it that we had to have an entire week of institution closures? Why did we require, for example, 7 days, or is it 5 days, for universities and colleges to close?
Unfortunately, I don't have a direct answer to that, but in my own thinking is to phase out movement. Because if on Sunday the president has said everyone go home, you would flock everywhere.
The transport system
So
again.
probably it's just to phase out the transport in order of day schools, so you reduce this fast traffic, boarding schools, universities. So that's my thinking. But in terms of why we had to wait a whole week, I don't know. My biggest problem and concern was why we did not, with immediate effect on Friday the 13th, say, when you said now social distancing, we urge you, why we didn't ask that
Within
we
order.
Yes, about churches and mosques and religious gatherings. Because I think the cases in Korea started from one person.
Right, church fellowship.
Patient 32, was it?
Yeah.
It's 10 minutes to 10 o'clock. Any final questions to Dr. Mercy? Ask 0719-012-600. Post on our social media platforms at Spice FM KE on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. And what's your direct handle, Dr. Mercy?
At Dr. Mercy Korir.
At Dr. Mercy Korir.
Yeah.
At Nduoko. At CT Muga. At Eric Latif.
Spice FM, Nakuru. Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM.
Question that you have for Dr. Mercy Career, ask them now. Social media handles, Spice FM KE on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. What do you see, Ndu?
Big question on Facebook is about water and what would happen when there are certain areas that depend on delivery of water on a daily basis. Dr. when water is a big issue for us to keep our hands washed, and then if people are not allowed to move, what is going to happen in this case? And do you think that has been taken into consideration by the government?
I think part of what we are discussing about putting money in people's pockets or food in people's tummies is part of this. Because now the government needs to decide what are the urgent areas that we need to address? Like when it's a total lockdown, who will suffer the most? You have to address your most vulnerable first.
Right, because people have water delivered to them in the morning, in the afternoon, and the evening in certain pockets of in Kokotenis, certain parts of the city.
So the government can then decide we'll have a water bowser, because now that at least that will be one or two people that you can trace who will not have any contact with people where they're dropping or they're delivering water. So these are some of the logistics.
Our benevolent governor of Nairobi.
These are the logistics that now the government needs to think about and make bold decisions on. Because as wananchi, we need to play our part, which is stay at home as much as possible, observe hygiene and what. Now, in the how-to, if we do not have running water, and us not having running water is a government problem, then they need to address it.
You know, Daktari, from a civilian perspective, it's difficult. But now that Nairobi is going to have somebody who has a military background, believe me, for someone who is in the military, the logistics are not complicated. They look at the problem, they will tell you what needs to be done, and believe me,
it's done.
It will get done because they know this is what you need. This is the problem. This is what these are the things we have at our disposal to ensure that a solution is found, or that solution will be found.
Will be found.
Yes.
This committee that's chaired by the Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe, the emergency response, the emergency response committee comprises Minister for Information, Minister for Transport, and others.
Yeah.
What job does it? What's its job apart from telling us the number of cases that we are seeing per day?
Okay. Apart from monitoring the situation, everyone has a role. All of these things we are talking about, you realize it will need money. It will probably need some security, something being done. There are certain arms of government that need to come in place. It will need some county coordination. And I think the first question was, why is the national government saying this? The counties are saying this. So all of these people are supposed to coordinate.
Actually, Mohammed Kuti is in this. The Isiolo governor.
He is.
He's the chair of the CUG Health Committee. So all of these people are supposed to coordinate so that everyone knows what my role is. So the Ministry of Health's role is to make sure that we follow the public health guidelines in terms of identification, confirmation, blah, blah, blah. Are the PPEs in place? That's their part. When it comes to interior, they have their role. Finance, they have their role. So everyone has their role, all of them geared towards containing the situation. So like we are asking, if we need to do a lockdown, so we need to do social protection, then there's an arm of government that says these are the number of people that we have that are vulnerable, they're in this and these places. They should have that data. So it's just a matter of deciding what do we do, how much money is needed, then you ask the treasury person, this is the money we need. So that is why it's a whole team and it's not just a one person show.
Okay.
Do you feel that we have sufficient personnel to address this? In the medical sector, medical personnel?
Of course, we do not have medical personnel. If you looked at the standard on Saturday, we just narrowed down to capacity. Worst case scenario, if we need critical care, people have seen what has happened in Italy where you now have to decide who do I put on a ventilator, who do I not. If we need critical care for people, this whole country, private and public sector, has 400 critical care beds.
Critical care is ICU. Oh, okay.
HDU.
HDU is not part of them.
Everything.
Okay.
400. 400. And we are 47.5 million of us. 400. And now that is just the bed space. Remember, you need personnel. You need one nurse for one bed at the very least, and they cannot work throughout. You need, in an ICU, you need at least 4 doctors. I think you need 4 doctors, and it has to be manned 24/7. You need
So
lab
4
support.
doctors per shift.
Yes, you need a lab support. Because it's, when we always think about healthcare, we always think about a doctor, nurse, and that's it. You need lab support, you need the patient attendants, you need your medical engineer, because there's a lot of machines being operated there. So there's a lot that goes into that. So if we say we have capacity, we don't have enough medics. That's why you saw the KMPDU asking the government that we have 3,000 jobless doctors. Take them in now that
This is the time.
This is the time to take them up, because
Take them
there's
now,
need for
let them go through training, let them be ready.
And those are just doctors. You have also nurses who are
Nurses who are-
tamaking, you have clinical officers who are tamaking. So this is the time to actually
use
bring
them.
all hands on deck.
I want to go back to that number of 400. Are we looking at this across public and private?
Yes.
Yes.
That's a scary number.
Yes.
Across the country.
Across the
Yes.
country.
Okay.
Across the country.
Dr. Masikori, will you join us again tomorrow morning so we can have this many questions and, of course, just trying to unravel whatever is happening.
Still very many questions on social
Yep.
media. We're not
There's so
getting
many
to
about
questions.
this, and you'll be responding to them, of course, on social media.
Yeah, definitely.
After we continue, we finish this show. City Muga,
What was that you called me again?
Chrysanthus, Theodore,
Chrysanthus sounds like a flower.
Theodore
It
sounds
actually
so
is a
romantic.
flower.
Actually,
Is it?
Crispin
Theodore.
Yes. Clearly, this is somebody who went to a Catholic school and probably learned things in
This
Latin.
somebody.
Yes, this
Somebody.
particular person.
Allow me to say one thing,
Yes.
Latif, in closing, about this coronavirus pandemic should teach us one thing, that universal healthcare is critical. Because at this point, whether you have a medical card that that covers you, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. If you go to the private facility, you'll still be sent back to that public
And you
facility.
cannot go seek medical attention abroad.
You cannot go abroad. So I think it's high time. Maybe we can discuss that tomorrow. That we see the need, the urgent
UHC.
need for universal health coverage, because it means it's access, not affordability.
Good. We have tomorrow's topic. Today's proverb.
You do
Tugange
not
leo.
climb a pepper tree, but rather you go around it. There are many ways of solving a problem, in short.
Skinning a cat.
That's it.
That's it.
Many ways of skinning a
A
cat.
cat.
But why
Yes.
would you want to skin a cat?
Well, I think it's
To banish it.
jog your mind. First of all, getting that cat is going to be tricky. And think of the process of trying to skin it, what that cat is going to do to you.
The Situation Room continues tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. Between now and 3 o'clock, you'll have uninterrupted music. But of course, in case of any emerging issues, you'll get all the updates right here. Keep it Spice FM. Good morning. It's 10 o'clock.